All right, welcome everybody. Thank you for attending this regular city council meeting. As a regular city council meeting, the rules of decorum are in effect and in force. With that, I'm going to call this meeting to order at 5:30 p.m. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, indivisible. Please be seated. Thank you. City Secretary, we have a quorum this evening with all council members in attendance and in person. Proof of notice of meeting, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Notice of this meeting was posted by 3 p.m. on September 27th.
Thank you. City Secretary, do we have any public comments?
Yes, we do.
Okay, let me remind you that when your name is called, please come to the podium, state your name and your ward. You'll have 3 minutes to speak. And as a reminder, council cannot respond to you during public comments.
First up, we have Patricia LaFarelle, Ward 4.
Okay, come on up, Patricia. Name, ward, and 3 minutes.
Name, ward, and
then you have 3 minutes.
okay. Hello, my name is Patricia LaFarelle and I live in Ward 4. I hope you had time to review my family album that Gio was so kind to email to you, and my last moment letter that was emailed to you yesterday. The album tells a bit about the history of my parents' businesses that were located on East Murphy Street many years ago. Also, 106 East Murphy Street was their home and is now mine and my son Daniel's home. The businesses that my parents had on Murphy Street were a meat market / grocery store and a beauty shop. My son put something in there, which were quiet businesses and met the conveniences and needs of the neighborhood. My home would be enclosed by the Ritchie Hotel and the proposed beer garden that Perla Baeza wants to open at 106 East Murphy Street. I sincerely hope you do not approve the beer garden, which I believe would turn the first block of East Murphy Street into a bar scene. I love the neighborhood that I live in, and I feel that another bar on the same block will certainly disrupt the quality of living in my home and neighborhood. My family home has existed for more than 150 years on East Murphy Street, and I ask that you do not destroy the historical value of my block and neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you. City Secretary, any other public comments?
Next up, we have Daniel Lester, Ward 4, speaking on special use permit 2024-10-01.
Great, thank you. Okay, Daniel. Okay, name, ward, you have 3 minutes.
Daniel Lester, Ward 4. One of the biggest things that I love about growing up and living in Alpine is the major peace and quiet that is able to provide, that which you usually can't get from rural urban areas. This has made Alpine an attractive place to retire, raise a family, and provide a vacation for urban residents to have a break from the greater stresses and noise pollution that entails living in an urban area. Having 2 beer establishments along the East Murphy block would cause me, my mother, and my neighbors along that block to experience greater music noise from having those 2 establishments there. And the bigger crowds that it could bring could create further complications with parking, such as me and my mother being able to enter and exit our driveway. To quote American book author Christopher Paolini, "No one can function properly without occasional peace and quiet." And then to also quote French mathematician Blaise Pascal, "All men's miseries derive from not being able to sit in a quiet room alone." Thank you.
Thank you. City Secretary.
We have Leonel Rodriguez, Ward 4, speaking on special use permit 2024-10-01.
So Lonnie, name and ward when you come up.
Leonardo Rodriguez, Ward 4. We live a block away from this proposed brewery. And our main concerns, my wife, Paula Wilson and I, are three things: parking, sanitation, and noise to the neighborhood. Already we are bombarded by a good bit of noise in our neighborhood. The sanitation part of the deal is, I understand they're gonna sell beer and food out of coolers. My concern is the food. What type of food, where it's made. I understand it's not being made on the property, but it's being brought in. Where's it coming from? And who's making it? If it's sandwiches, whatever it is, if it's made out of a sanctioned kitchen, that would be all right, I suppose. But if it's not, we need to know that type of thing. And again, the parking has already been discussed. I understand that they were saying that their beer garden, the parking would not change. It would be the same as the farmer's market. Well, the farmer's market didn't have any parking. They just parked on the side of the streets, which develops into a pretty congested area. If anybody would care to drive by there right now, you can see what the parking is like right now. So those are the concerns that I suppose you all already know, or if you don't, maybe you need to look at. There's water supply, or the beer garden is another concern. Where are they getting their water? I suppose they have some kind of tap to the city. Then there's a fire pit that is concerning. I mean, the water source pertains to the fire pit. If they have one, they maybe should have three to control a fire. Should it happen? Hopefully it never does. And then they were also saying that there was no hard liquor sold there, but on one of the statements made, it says no hard liquor, but about 4 paragraphs down, she says, bring your own bottle. Concerning too. Wait. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Lonnie. City Secretary?
That concludes public comment this evening.
Okay, good, thank you. So we're moving into public hearings. If anybody is here to speak on any of the public hearings, it's the same procedure. When you come to the podium, name, ward, you'll have 3 minutes and council cannot respond. All right, public hearing A. Public hearings are beginning at 5:38 p.m. City Secretary. Public hearing A, to obtain citizen views and comments regarding the second and final reading of ordinance 2024-09-02, an ordinance amending chapter 10 animals to the Alpine Code of Ordinances, amending section 10-8, city-sponsored clinics authorized to update who can authorize a city-sponsored rabies vaccination registration clinic, amending section 10-10 wildlife feeding to amend the definition and objective of wildlife feeding, amending section 10-11- hunting, providing clarifying language that hunting is prohibited within the city limits of Alpine, except for the capture and control of nuisance animals by an authorized government official, amending section 10-42, public nuisances designated to provide clarifying language, provide additional circumstances that constitute an animal nuisance, and making section references to other relevant sections in the chapter, removing section 10-45, standing bulls, stallions, and jacks at stud, and relocating the section to a more appropriate portion of the code and establishing section 10-95, standing bulls, stallions, or jacks at stud under Division 2 permits, amending section 10-9, guide dogs by updating the title to more appropriate language. 10-9, service animals to better align with federal and state verbiage and requirements, providing the establishment of up to a $500 penalty per occurrence for violations of the ordinance, and providing for the following findings of fact, enactment, repealer, penalty, saving, severability, proper notice, and meeting, and effective date clauses. Is there anybody here to speak on this? Seeing none, public hearing B regarding the second final reading of ordinance 2024-09-03, and ordinance amending chapter 82 solid waste, providing for updated definitions throughout the chapter, providing clarification that disposing of ash or other byproduct of burning is considered illegal dumping, providing clarification that bulky items placed next to the collection containers is considered illegal dumping, establishing responsibilities of residential and commercial sanitation accounts, providing clarification that rates and fees are established by the approval contract with the waste hauler contractor, providing for updated requirements concerning disposal of dead animals, disposal of construction and demolition waste, and bulky waste disposal, providing clarification regarding offenses, penalties, and fines for violations of the chapter, establishing Division 3 scrap tires that provides criteria and guidelines for the proper disposal and storage, transportation, collection, and processing of tires, providing the establishment of up to a $4,000 penalty per occurrence for violations of the ordinance, and providing for the following findings of fact, enactment, repealer, penalty, saving, severability, proper notice and meeting, and effective date clauses. Is there anyone here to speak on this? Seeing none, public hearing C to obtain citizen views and comments regarding replat 2024-10-01, a replat allowing the applicant Ruben Lasoya to amend lot lines to provide conformance with R4 zoning requirements for the subject property. The subject property is located at or about 806 South Cactus Street and is legally described as 1.482 acres out of the south, 3.0 acres of the west half of Block 2, Means Addition A, Brewster County, Texas, being all of that certain 1.483 acre tract described in document number 105626, official public records of Brewster County, Texas. The property owner of record is Ruben Lasoya. The property ID of the subject property is 11311. The current zoning classification of the property is R4 Mobile Home District. If the replat is approved, the zoning classification of the property will remain R4 Mobile Home District. Is there anyone here to speak on this? Seeing none, public hearing D to obtain citizen views and comments regarding special use permit 2024-10-01, a special use permit authorizing the applicant Perla Baeza to obtain a malt beverage retail dealer's on-premise license from the Texas Alcoholic Beverage Commission to establish a beer garden that will include malt beverage sales at the subject property. The subject property is located at the previous farmers market, 107 East Murphy. The property owner of record is Perla Baeza. The parcel ID of the subject property is 34500. Is there anyone here to speak on this? Okay, please come forward. State your name and your ward. You have 3 minutes and council can't respond.
Hello, everyone. My name is Perla Baeza. I am, precinct 4, and I am the owner of the current Old Farmers Marketplace. I have heard and understood what everybody is concerned with. First of all, I want to say that my intention is never to turn this into a bar per se. It is called a beer garden because it's a passerby. You stop by, you pick up the beer, you sit down, you talk with friends. It is never intended to be a bar. Secondly, with the music, it's understandable completely as well. There are residential places that are very, very close to that area. I have literally last week put up my speaker and I walked across the street, and my intention is for that music to not go over across the street. I understand, right? Are we just going to take whatever it is that she says? I personally don't enjoy loud music. I want to be able to have a place where we can all go, enjoy ourselves, sit down, and be able to speak to each other face to face without having to scream at each other. I do not want loud music. Secondly, it's not just a drinking establishment. This is something that I want to do and I thought of doing for the community. I know nobody knows me, but I have been a part of the community many years ago. I went to Sul State University and left and came back. And I did look at what it was that the city was looking for. And I do see that we are missing places for kids to be able to hang out, for us to be able to have a hangout with the family. There's parks and that type of thing, and I completely understand. But I want to be able to have a widescreen TV where the kids can watch How the Grinch Stole Christmas while the parents sit down and maybe sip on a glass of beer. Or I don't know, have something like a bake sale from the school. It is not completely a bar. And I understand because there's so many of them and there's so many other things happening in this town. I want to be able to have something for the community, for the kids to come together. I want to be able to do ice cream socials. I want to be able to do something where kids can hang out and have daddy-daughter dances every once in a while and be able to have, popcorn parties at that place. And I do understand that how it's posted on there, it reads like it's just a regular bar. And that is not my intention. And that is not what I want to do. Both my children grew up here. Both my children were born here. I want to be able to bring something different to the community. And maybe that's what's causing confusion, is because it is something different. But the intention of having a drunken bar was never my intention. To be able to have something like a booty grinding loud music dance hall is not my intention. I want to be able to bring something for the whole community. This is why, sorry. Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you. Okay. Public hearing E, to obtain citizen views and comments regarding special use permit 2024-10-02, a short-term rental special use permit allowing a short-term rental to be established at 609 South 12th Street. The property owner of record is Charles Sanders. The parcel ID of the subject property is 33952. Is there anybody here to speak on this? Seeing none, moving on to public hearing F, to obtain citizen views, public hearing to obtain citizen views and comments regarding special use permit 2024-10-03, a short-term rental special use permit allowing a short-term rental to be established at 801 West Avenue F. The property owner of record is Charles Sanders. The parcel ID of the subject property is 10484. Is there anybody here to speak on behalf of this? Okay, seeing none, public hearings close at 5:47. City Secretary. Okay, moving on to public presentations. Presentations and recognitions, there are none. Proclamations, we have two. For the first one, let me have the gas department come on up, and anybody else here to receive this proclamation. Okay, in honor of our local community-owned natural gas utility. Whereas the citizens of Alpine, Texas place high value on local control over community services and therefore have chosen to operate a community-owned, locally controlled, not-for-profit natural gas utility. And whereas the City of Alpine Gas Department provides our homes, businesses, farms, social service, and local government agencies with reliable, efficient, and cost-effective natural gas, employing sound business practices designed to ensure the best possible service. And whereas the City of Alpine Gas Department is a valuable community asset that contributes substantially to the well-being of local citizens through energy efficiency, customer service, environmental protection, economic development, and safety awareness. And whereas the City of Alpine Gas Department's first and only purpose is to work in partnership with its customer owners to furnish an essential public service and the best customer service to community citizens. And whereas the City of Alpine Gas Department will continue to work to ensure that consumers benefit from any changes in the natural gas utility industry, just as it has since 2012, the year when the utility was acquired to serve all the citizens of Alpine, Texas. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that the week of October 6th through October 12th, 2024 is designated Public Natural Gas Week in Alpine, Texas, to honor the City of Alpine Gas Department for its contributions to the community and to make its consumer owners, policymakers, and employees more aware of the gas department's significant contributions to their well-being. In witness whereof I have hereunto set my hand this first day of October in the year 2024. You already get it?
Thank you.
Okay, and for the second proclamation, may I have all educators come forward?
But our teachers of the year from last year from the elementary school, Ms. Jeanette Fort, from the middle school, Ms. Shauna Hernandez, and from Alpine High School, Coach Jared.
Right. Nice.
Okay, whereas City of Alpine's future strength depends on providing a high-quality education to all students, and whereas teacher quality matters more to student achievement than any other school-related factor, and whereas teachers spend countless hours preparing lesson plans and supporting students, and whereas our City of Alpine teachers deserve our continued support, respect, and admiration, and whereas we proudly lead in demonstrating to our community to recognize and support our teachers and the education of children of this community, and whereas #TeachersCan is a statewide movement supported by more than 150 partnering businesses and organizations committed to elevating the teacher profession and honoring the critical role teachers play in the success of Texas. Now, therefore, I, Catherine Eves, Mayor of the City of Alpine, Texas, on behalf of the community, do hereby announce and proclaim to all citizens and set seal hereto that October 5th, 2024 as World Teachers Day. Be it further resolved that the City of Alpine City Council encourages members of our community to personally express appreciation to our teachers and display a light blue ribbon outside your homes or businesses the week of October 5th as a symbol of support for our educators. In witness whereof I have hereunto set my hand this first day of October in the year 2024. He's born.
Where do we get like blue ribbons?
He's born. Do we have any?
How are you? Looks like we're back.
Thank you. I think there's a shop in town. We're on Fifth, if I have it.
Yeah, I
It's
just.
the
I've never
Gunslingers.
heard before. Yeah. Okay.
All right, so moving on to community interest items. Mayor announcements. I know our city manager is going to mention National Night Out tonight, 6 to 8 at Pueblo Nuevo. She can go into more detail. And then I'm lucky because I'm first.
I know, we just switched this.
And then the Bluegrass Festival coming up this Friday and Saturday at the Civic Center. All right, so city manager, your turn. City secretary, these are 1 minute announcements.
we have tickets for that.
So it's the same. National Night Out is tonight. They do have food. It is not only our Alpine Police Department, but the fire department, the sheriff's department, and the EMS services will also be there. We are doing a soft opening, so no, Pueblo Nuevo is not open officially yet. It is not completed, but we wanted to get people out there to see the great work that has been done so far. And then yes, Bluegrass Festival is this weekend. It's Friday, Saturday. So if you want to hear some great bluegrass music, it will be here at the Civic Center, and she will have some vendors outside.
Great, thank you. City secretary, each council member gets 1 minute on the clock. Councilmember Stevens,
I'm good for tonight, thank you.
okay, Councilmember Escobedo.
I wish I was at Pueblo Nuevo for the soft opening.
Okay,
I'm really actually excited that Pueblo Nuevo is finally gonna be open. It first started in 2016 when I got on board on the Parks Board. And it's been a long journey. Well, I've been on city council and off and back on now, but it's good.
We're
So I'm
there.
really happy.
Great.
Councilmember Nance,
Comments?
Councilmember Martinez.
I want to people know that a small business developer center, they're having October 3rd, the fall 2024 Inspire Her event. They will be in the Big Bang Telephone Company, and it's a specific limit places. So you didn't call, you better call. I don't know if they still having any openings. They have some guest speakers. The lunch would be provided. And like one is they have the spaghetti dinner October 3rd in the elementary school. So they need also.
Thank you. Councilmember Stone.
Thank you, Mayor. 3 quick announcements. There is, of course, work going on the highway. I know that the contractor in TxDOT has had communications with the school system, but looking forward to seeing any updates of communication and changes of their plans. Not exactly sure what is going on. We thought there was gonna be night work, and then we requested afternoon work, and then now there's all day, maybe all night work. So don't know there. But moving on, I had a great conversation with Dr. Reinhardt today, and looking forward to talking to her more. We spoke about that, but also about the May to November election. She does have some concerns about that, especially with decreased funding going from the state. They have 2 opportunities to make bonds as well as changes in their May and November right now, in their types of ways that they can go to the community for a tax increase or other things like that. And so we want to make sure that we are supporting our school system in that. And so continuing those conversations with her, and voting next Monday, last day to register to vote. And make sure everybody goes out and registers to vote. Tell somebody else.
Moving to changes to posted agenda. First up, any items to be continued or withdrawn? Okay,
Withdrawn from the consent agenda.
no. That comes up next. Okay.
Says the same thing.
Yeah, this is the entire agenda. Got it? All right, so you're good?
Yeah.
Okay. Moving to item B, items to be removed from consent agenda for a separate discussion.
C and D, please.
Okay, so C and D. Okay, any other items? All right, moving on to action items to be added to the consent agenda. Seeing none, moving on, time sensitive items. Seeing none, moving on to the consent agenda. City Secretary, we have removed by simple request by Councilmember Stone, items C and D.
Thank you, Mayor. Tonight's consent agenda now contains 3 items. Item A, approval of September 10th, 2024 special meeting minutes. The second item is approval of September 17th, 2024 regular meeting minutes. And the last item is approved Gibson Ruddick Patterson LLC letter of engagement for fiscal year 2023-2024 annual audit.
We approve the consent agenda for items A, B, and E.
Second.
Okay, let's vote for
Aye.
items A, B, and E.
Aye.
Aye.
City Secretary, consent agenda items A, B, and E have been approved unanimously with all council members voting in favor. Now, let's look at consent agenda item number C, or letter C. Councilmember Stone?
Thank you, Mayor. This pertains to both. For the most part, I plan to vote on both of these in the affirmative. With that, I just wanted to note that I feel like I've seen Charles Sanders before, and I'm wondering if we're just like, if there, how many is registered in his name, if we have that info on hand.
We have 3. Well, actually, we've been trying to work with him to get registered for quite some time now. So
Sure.
these are 2 properties that we were aware, for a few years. He was trying to work some things out with the inspection to get resolved before
Okay.
he went through finally.
Do we know how many properties he has in like total?
At least 3.
At least 3,
Yeah,
and that including these 2, or
That's
in
including
addition?
these 2.
Oh, it's including these 2, okay. I know in other cities, occasionally they do like, you can only own so many properties in a city, or you can only own so many on a same block or something. I don't want to come back and change the rules after the fact. Again, planning to vote these in, but as we've talked a lot about short-term rentals, and we want everybody to be in compliance, but also we don't want a town full of them. We want to be able to leave housing for our residents and everybody too. So just wanted to bring that up.
Okay, does that pertain to item D as well?
Yeah.
Okay, so any other discussion on items C and D?
The only thing I would mention is one of these properties has 2 rentable units on it, so that would be, we'll be going to TML, so I do think we should continue to look at STR, third-party companies, and see if they can, fill in any gaps that we have for the times.
Ready to vote? Okay, so we have a motion. We need a motion. actually.
I make a motion to approve items C and D that were on the consent agenda.
Okay, and a second. Okay, let's vote.
Aye.
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 City Secretary, items C and D from the consent agenda were approved unanimously. All council members voting in favor of. Moving on to reports and presentations, there are none. Moving on to information or discussion items. Discussion item A belongs to me. It's discussion regarding maintenance of city parks, practice fields, and other city assets. The reason I'm bringing this forward is there have been several residents who have reached out lately, and we just wanted some updates on that. Ms. McWaugh reached out to me in regards to the dog park. Danny Bell reached out to myself and Councilmember Stevens regarding sports fields. Linda Gallego and David Keller reached out. Linda Gallego in reference to all of the city parks, in particular Baines, and David Keller also in regards to Baines Park. And city manager,
Well.
I don't see the Parks Department here.
No, Eddie and David were both asked to be here this evening to provide the update. Unfortunately, maybe there was some confusion. They weren't here for the workshop. I can only give you what I know. I had preferred David to give you the full update because he is the foreman for the Parks Department and to provide you more in-depth information. As far as the watering, that is being completed at currently all the parks. We've had issues with Baines, Medina. We do water Coconut Park as well. Coconut Park is on a schedule, so they're time limited, so they do go off. The water department during the summer did ask the Parks Department to limit their watering because we had some serious issues with the west side of town. I know this isn't probably the best thing to say, but residents come before trees. We wanted to make sure that there was the potable water for the residents, so we asked them not to water the parks for about 2 months. But that doesn't mean they didn't water the trees. They did water the trees because the backflow is broken at Medina Park, which they have reached out. They have gotten someone to fix that. They were having to manually water those. They do have a water truck that they would go and they would water each of the trees a little bit, about twice a month. As far as the dog park is being updated. We did have the shade that was donated that we were working with a third party to go out and put out there. We are dependent on their schedule. They have a slew of projects that they've been working on, including the library. And so we were very grateful that they donated it. So we didn't want to kind of say, hey, can you put it in now? We worked with their schedule and they're getting that put in. The material in the dog park was all pulled up. They are putting back the tarp and all that as well and redoing that to help with the weeds and keep that taken care of. I know that the gophers at Coconut have been an issue since I moved to Alpine in 2003. I am going to admit what we have done. We have tried flooding out the gophers. That did not work, and I would not recommend that at this point because that is a waste of water. We had an employee who tried shooting them. That got us in trouble. He didn't kill them. He was just using a BB gun trying to discourage them. We've done a soap method where we've gone in and utilized a soap to kind of get them to go out. The best thing that we have found that works is fox urine. They spray the area and trying to deter the gophers. I don't think that there is a permanent solution to relocate the gophers, which create the holes in the soccer field. I know that the soccer Little League teams were upset, but it is a communication thing and notifying us in advance and not the day before to fix something, because the primary focus that the Parks Department has had this year is Pueblo Nuevo. That is a federal state grant that we are trying to complete and to meet all of those guidelines as well. So they kind of had the strong, you need to focus on that. They have been trimming the trees in the parks as well, in between all of the different projects that they've been working on. Much like a lot of our departments, they do have 5 full-time employees, and they're working through their list of everything. They do get pulled on occasion to go help the streets department. So we're trying to do what we can with what we have. But they are diligently working, and I think when the backflow gets fixed, Medina will be on the timers again, and so that will help that area. Of course, we're addressing our water issue, will help with all the parks.
I know David Keller was concerned about what we're all concerned about, goat heads and veins. What do they do for that?
So we have done several things. We manually pulled them out of the ground. I think at one point they tried to mow them early so they didn't bloom to get rid of them. We have torched them, gone in and burned them up. We tried different things. It is unfortunate. My yard is not a yard. It is a goat head farm. If you ever want to harvest, you can. But when we mow, it's always at the last point of the year, and so they're the beautiful little yellow flowers, and we just mass produce them for everybody. So I think goat heads, we just need to tackle it a little bit earlier to try to control them. I know that the team has looked at utilizing the blow torches and actually purchasing some for the city itself to go in and making sure that they're trained so we don't start a fire,
Right.
to get rid of them.
Sure, go ahead.
I'll start it off that we had a past park, national park employee come and help us try to get rid of a few goat heads at Coconut when we did the cleanup day. And he was using a small burner. We had, ample opportunity to be safe and carrying literally water around with us while that was happening. Is that legal to current ordinance right now? Just making sure that we're not like doing something that isn't legal, or I know we're changing some ordinances that aren't.
That would be,
specifically,
yes.
It would be, okay. Those small burners, okay.
Yeah, we're not starting an actual fire or containing a fire.
Okay.
But we would want or ask people to make sure that if you did something like that, that you let someone know, because if it did get out of hand, it not only could cost you your property, but it could also cost you your neighbors.
Sure, absolutely, yeah. And I think it's, according to him, was one of the best ways to do it. Of course, not on the driest day of the year or a windy day of the year. We want to be smart about it, but yeah, thank you.
Any other discussion? Okay,
So-
Dr. Stevens.
Thanks, Mayor. Probably the big discussion that I get involved with is baseball fields, soccer fields, dog parks, and a number of us work with the Little League team and the soccer team. I think one of the things we can probably do, Megan, I think you mentioned we have a parks coordinator now, or
Yes, so we have a Parks Recreation Coordinator that's supposed to start working with the different little leagues so we can get a schedule.
yeah.
So once the schedule's established and we know, okay, you're gonna have a grand opening or your first game or however you're gonna work it. The Parks Department knows, okay, these are my priority parts. I don't need to focus on this one, I need to tackle these. For the past several years, it's been kind of and even Gio's been part of some of the meetings, it's been kind of a cluster. It's okay, well, we need to rent them, we need to reserve them, we're gonna do this, we're gonna change it. And the city's kind of last minute notified.
Yep.
So we're gonna use Centennial, we have you on the schedule for Centennial, and then all of a sudden you're at Copa.
Yep.
So it's really sitting down and getting that all organized, so when we look at our parks, there's an actual game plan in place. And also, I mean, we do ask that people reserve the parks, we do not charge a single fee for people to utilize them. They block it off for the rest of the public to utilize, and we think that's a great deal, especially for the little league kids.
Yeah.
But it's just the communication to make sure we address the holes.
Yeah. So can we be proactive, because a few of us went and spent a few $1,000s, brought in a load of dirt for the little league fields. We working sand for the soccer fields. And my other put is, hey, moms and dads of kids, because I did this when my kids were young. Get out there ahead of time and start maintaining ahead of time, because there's not enough of our parks folks to go do that.
So that's been part of the discussion with the Public Works Department, is to utilize the recreation coordinator, I shouldn't say park. To get the schedule in place so Parks knows what their task is.
So help us, who's our coordinator?
And I am not gonna say her last name because I will slaughter it.
Just the first name.
Her name is Lori.
Lori, okay.
We hired her a few months ago. She got kind of thrown in the middle of everything because we just started the pool stuff.
Yeah.
So it was a learning curve for her as well. David Martinez is our parks foreman.
So how do we get a hold of Lori?
So her information, I do believe, is available on the website.
I'm looking and I can't find it. That's why I'm asking.
So you can call this, so she has her office here.
Okay.
So you can call the 837-3301 and ask to speak to her.
Okay.
I don't have my computer with me tonight. She does have a city issued phone as well.
Okay.
And that information can be provided.
Because I think that will help, because my put is gonna be, hey, little league, hey, soccer, hey, get your schedule ahead of time. Let's start working the fields ahead of time. Let's mow the lawns. Let's get the weeds pulled.
And she's had a lot of great ideas, and I
Okay.
hope that she gets the opportunity to implement them. I know some of them do have a little bit of a cost with them. The hardest thing that we have is the scheduling. It is a first come, first served basis.
Yeah.
Which does upset some people because some people hear at exactly 8 a.m. and they want every field for the next year.
Yeah.
And others wait till last minute. So she's gonna coordinate and try to compromise with everyone to make sure everyone has access.
Is she also gonna work with Sol Ross, because they've got fields as well?
So we do currently utilize Sol Ross fields.
We do, okay,
Yeah,
super,
so they gave us access to several.
excellent, thank you.
Councilmember Escobedo?
So we're utilizing the Soros fields, who maintains them?
Sol Ross.
Sol Ross does,
Good deal.
oh yeah, they got great fields too. Yeah, they got great fields.
Yeah. Okay, Councilmember Nance?
Even on the Gophers.
Patty Shack.
When we shot water in there and soap, did they have cages on all the holes to capture them and remove?
So that was right when I had started with the city, so I can't confirm. I do know that we had brought a group out here to help. They did a study. I don't know whatever happened to it or if we were provided a copy, but they actually did a study on our gopher population. We do have a very, very healthy gopher population in Albuquerque.
I mean, because I'm just thinking that we can't be the only place with gophers that can't remove them. Like Lubbock and the Panhandle, they have gophers everywhere.
Oklahoma.
The parking, I mean, the park people, maybe somewhere up there knows something that can actually be done.
Fine, and Eddie had mentioned the fox urine really is the best deterrent
It works
currently.
well.
And we did speak about making sure to buy that in larger batches. And then making sure that we apply it more often.
Okay. And
Our
then,
feral cats in that area also help. I see Jennifer with the animal control, so I had to say.
Yeah, I actually got a call from someone that says they saw a feral cat haul a gopher away.
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
No, we don't want to increase that population.
Yeah, but hey, they're there.
Oh, that was everything.
okay. Councilmember Martinez?
I want to thank you for working on Marina Park. You know, I'm getting a lot of phone calls out of the trees and the grass. It looks sad, so hopefully soon they will be watering again, but I know you're working on it, so thank you.
So we ask our residents to have those backflows, we have to have them.
Yeah.
So we had to get ours fixed.
Yeah, we can't contaminate the water source.
No.
And one more questions. I know years ago when Lucy was in the city, it was some money authorized to fix it out, Valentine Park, like good new water holes, so fix some little things and never get it done. So I'm wondering, I know the money disappeared already.
It's not that the money disappeared, the budget was amended for that fiscal year to allow for those additional expenses. There was no actual physical money put aside in a reserve account or anything like that for those projects. Those projects weren't completed that fiscal year and it wasn't asked for again.
Okay, so if it's applied again to those fix it up and facelift, it will be for that 2026?
So yes, if we wanted to make it specific for that park, we could put it in the 26 budget. They do have what we call park maintenance, which applies to every single park within the city, that they utilize those funds for different projects. So they do have a long list of projects to work towards. I think once we have that recreation coordinator with the list of Little League games, and we'll kind of know which parks.
So
we
that
can
would be
start
lower
addressing.
than.
She'll be assisting. So ultimately Eddie is the director of public works and he does have the final say on the direction he wants to go with his.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Stone? Good. All right.
I had one more question, sorry, I just thought about it. The money that was earmarked from oil gas that was gonna go to a creek trail. Half of that ended up going somewhere, right?
So that money was all applied, not all, I'm sorry, 50,000 was left for a splash pad.
Okay.
And the remaining is been set aside for the generator project through FEMA. To put the generators at the different well stations in Alpine, and Muskies, Sunny, and
So that'll be putting generators for the water supply.
that would be the city's portion for, well, the city's portion plus, I believe the grant has gone over a little bit.
That FEMA grant,
Yes,
got a 50-50?
No.
80-20?
75-25.
25, okay, so then that leaves how much for the splash pad? 50,000? And everything else has been earmarked, so that's the only amount? And then I guess, because here would be my question, is if the council would have any appetite, it's not gonna be a popular one with some people, but if Marfa is getting a splash pad. So there's gonna be a splash pad in our area. If we wanted to take those funds and somehow use them in another parkway or something like that, I don't know if there'd be any interest for something like that. And if it's a labor issue of as far as, you know, they don't have time to water, come in and cut grass or whatever else like that, and anything that we could, you know, properly get cellular timers or anything else, some kind of technology that can offload some of that labor cost or something. Nothing's ever gonna happen. We're gonna be complaining about gophers 5 years from now unless there's probably a capital infusion into something like this. So that would just be something that I would mention.
Mayor, may I make one comment to that? It's a great idea. Gophers are a problem. Goat heads are a problem. I'll note that we, at the Alpine Public Library meetings, we've discussed, obviously it needs to be brought up here, but that would be an awesome place to have said water feature. So and they are perhaps open. The board is liking that idea, just noting that as well. But
Any other comments? All right, so moving on to action items. The first action item belongs to city manager.
Thank you, Mayor. The first item, A, approve the second and final reading of ordinance 2024-09-02. An ordinance amending chapter 10, animals to the Alpine Code of Ordinances, amending section 10-8, city-sponsored clinics authorized to update who can authorize a city-sponsored rabies vaccination registration clinic. amending section 10-10, wildlife feeding to amend the definition and objective of wildlife feeding, amending section 10-11, hunting, providing clarifying language that hunting is prohibited within the city limits of Alpine, except for the capture and control of nuisance animals by an authorized government official, amending section 10-42, public nuisances designated to provide clarifying language, provide additional circumstances that constitute an animal nuisance, and making section reference to other relevant sections in the chapter, removing section 10-45, standing bulls, stallions, or jacks at stud, and relocating the section to a more appropriate portion of the code, and establishing section 10-95, standing bulls, stallions, or jacks at stud under division 2 permits, amending section 10-9, guide dogs, by updating the title to a more appropriate language, 10-9, service animals, to better align with the federal and state verbiage and requirements, providing the establishment of up to a $500 penalty per occurrence for violations of the ordinance, and providing for the following findings of fact, enactment, repealer, penalty, savings, severability, proper notice and meeting, and effective date clauses.
I need a motion.
I'll move to approve as presented.
I need- Okay, discussion, city manager, start us out.
This is the second and final reading of this ordinance. The Animal Advisory Board took some time to go through and actually review their ordinances and kind of better clarify, clean them up, structure them a little bit more appropriately. Council did approve the first reading, so this is the second and final.
Okay, Councilmember Stone,
No comments.
Councilmember Martinez,
No comment.
Councilmember Nance,
Comments?
Councilmember Escobedo,
No comment.
Councilmember Stevens.
Just a reminder, we all agreed that Maribel's pig's okay.
All right, let's vote.
Aye.
Aye.
City Secretary, we have approved the second and final reading of ordinance 2024-09-02 unanimously. Moving on to action item number 2. This one belongs to no name, so city manager.
We didn't catch that. So item number B, thank you, Mayor, approve second and final reading of ordinance 2024-09-03. An ordinance amending chapter 82 solid waste, providing for updated definitions throughout the chapter, providing clarification that disposing of ash or other byproduct of burning is considered illegal dumping, providing clarification that bulky items placed next to the collection containers is considered illegal dumping, establishing responsibilities of residential and commercial sanitation accounts, providing clarification that rates and fees are established by the approved contract with the waste hauler contractor, providing for updated requirements concerning disposal of dead animals, disposal of construction and demolition waste, and bulky waste disposal, providing clarification regarding offenses, penalties, and fines for violations of chapter, establishing division 3 scrap tires that provides criteria and guidelines for the proper disposal and storage, transportation, collection, and processing of tires, providing the establishment of up to a $4,000 penalty per occurrence for violations of the ordinance, and providing for the following findings of fact, enactment, repealer, penalty, savings, severability, proper notice and meeting, and effective date clauses.
Motion,
I'll make the motion as presented.
second.
I'll second it.
Okay, discussion, city manager.
So in the last meeting, we had the first reading. Part of that reading did involve Council Stevens mentioning, actually, no, sorry, Mr. Stevens, that we amend the contractor to include not only that they have a roll-off, but they could have a trash trailer as well. So we did clean up the ordinance to include that additional request, which is being presented for the second and final reading.
Okay, Councilmember Stevens,
No comments.
Councilmember Escobedo.
I only have a question regarding the $4,000 penalty. Why so high?
So that actually is in line with the state. The state of Texas does allow for illegal dumping to have a penalty to up to $4,000.
Councilmember Nance,
No comments.
Councilmember Martinez,
No comments.
Councilmember Stone.
It's one quick comment. I'm looking at my most recent water bill. This guy, I'll just say it, I get about $20 for water, $20 for, or $15.50 for sewer. My garbage is $44.17. I think that's about everybody. It's equally put across the place. I understand we're updating this, but again, I'm bringing up the fact that we won't be able to put lawn waste, including in a bag, prettily done. And that's our biggest charge, I think, or as I can tell on that bill at least. I think perhaps this contract is a little bit outdated. I hope that we can do better when we go to them for a renewal contract so that we can be able to put a bag, maybe a month of lawn waste or something like that. Thanks, Mayor.
Okay, any other comments? Let's vote.
Aye.
And I,
City Secretary, we have approved the second and final reading of ordinance 2024-09-03 unanimously. Moving on to action item C, this one belongs to Councilmember Stevens.
so this is a follow-up to the action of discussion at the last council meeting. I'm just trying to move the ball along, so I'm gonna make the motion that we approve the first reading of ordinance 2024-10-1, an ordinance authorizing the vacation, abandonment, and sale of 0.025 acres of city-owned property, being a 2-foot wide strip out of West Brown Avenue right-of-way adjacent and parallel to northwest line of Lot 8, Block 8, Hamilton Addition to the City of Alpine, authorizing the city manager to execute a deed without warranty to the applicant Lee Fin Nee, directing that funds from the sale of the city's interest be deposited in the general fund of purpose of street improvements, providing for terms and conditions of such thereof, providing for a severability clause, providing for an effective date, further authorizing the city building inspector to issue a permanent variance to the city setback requirements regarding the property line to the West Brown Avenue right of way.
I need a second.
I'll second that.
Okay, discussion. Councilmember Stevens, this was your item.
Thanks very much, Mayor. So I'm just trying to move the ball along. We talked about this. We turned it down because we had our acting utility directors come forward expressing some concern. We met with the city inspector, the gas director, the water department director, utilities director, all came to agreement. Says instead of a 10-foot sale, we had to do 2 feet. That allows for the property, the house that sits on city property, to be sold to allow it to go through. It still maintains the easement that is required by the city for the sewer. It is not an issue for the gas line and allows this property sale to go through. I know there are a bunch of things to go work that have to be worked through planning and zoning, everything else. I just wanted to get us all aligned that says, let's move this thing forward so the property owner can decide how to move forward.
Councilmember Stone.
Do you see us doing the same thing, Councilmember Stevens, all the way down the street? Is this the fix?
This is the only one that I'm aware of where the house is actually built on city property.
It's actually built there, and we're not gonna knock down a house. Of course, thank you.
Councilmember Nance.
So I did have a question for Alessandra on this one.
Alessandra.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, great. Thank you.
And I had forwarded the question for Alessandra on this one about if the city would just be able to provide an easement for that property and the house that is on that property without selling the property. And which kind of, if this was just a negotiation between two property owners with the city of Alpine being one of those property owners, can, in order to simplify it, can we not just provide a easement for that?
We could, you know, that this is something that I thought about, and I also had, you know, replied only just before this meeting to Megan about it. But an easement is pretty common. However, to me, the main issue is the maintenance of the easement. So we could negotiate, you know, an agreement with property owners going forward, but you know, it would also maybe come down to even something like the pavement, the actual, you know, grass being mown, you know, on the easement, like code concerns, basically. And it's very common for cities to go forward and having easements in these situations and to ask property owners to then maintain the easement. But that is, you know, just something to consider. That's really the only thing that I would say in this situation.
Councilmember Martinez.
My only question is just wondering, so if we approve this small amount is different from the last time. What happened if they decide to sell it in the future?
They want to sell it. That's the whole reason that's forcing it. And if the city council does not approve it, the property cannot be sold because it's in part owned by the city, and therefore they cannot clear title. Therefore they cannot sell the house unless someone bought it cash. And I would never want to buy a property that on cash that I couldn't own all of it. Otherwise, there's 2 feet of the house I don't know. That's the issue.
Councilmember Escobedo,
I don't have any comments on that.
Councilmember Nance.
Then Alessandra, just for clarification, so the options are sell the section of land, which is what we're being presented here within this ordinance, and then they would fully maintain it because there would be no conflict in maintenance. They would understand they have full management and maintenance of that property. The other option would be us providing an easement for that property, but then we would have to negotiate who maintains.
So I would say the first and the third are the real options. You know, they're gonna have to agree to maintenance of the easement either way. And because they're in a hurry to sell the land, that does, you know, create that cloud on that title with the city. So you're basically looking at two different buyers, you know, who would have to agree to maintenance of that easement.
So the clearest way forward is what we see here, selling the property to get a clean title.
For that, yes, it is.
Okay, and then Megan, this would be a question for you.
Megan.
What are the next steps if this property is sold?
So if this property is sold, then it would have to do the deed, would have to have the easement for that property. And it still has to go before planning and zoning for the setback variance.
So,
Sorry, this is a first reading too, yeah.
So, and unfortunately, when the packet was put together, we reached out multiple times to get as much information as possible. But when we put the packet together, we didn't have the appraised value of the property. We received that on September 23rd at $554. We still haven't received the actual application for the purchase of it, even if they update the dates and resubmit it. They already have submitted their variance application, and that is being processed and scheduled for the next P&Z meeting.
so in reality, what does the timetable and the project look like for the broker and the landowner?
So the P&Z won't meet till October at the end of the month. Because we already have everything scheduled, it would be scheduled for the first meeting in November.
For the P&Z?
Well, P&Z at the end of October, first meeting of November for council approval for the variance. So the sale is still gonna have to have the second reading. But and we still need the actual application. Someone will actually have to amend the motion to include, and I did not provide copies of it because we received it after the fact. I didn't want to send it out because then it's not available for the public to see either. So we wanted to have the discussion, like Rick said, to get the ball rolling to move it forward. So you can approve the first reading and then we can amend it for the second reading. And then of course it'd be the deed. There would be replatting, because then it does become their property and they'd have to show it on their survey.
Megan, how is this different from the one that we previously had that we denied? Do you remember we had something else come before us?
That is this one.
It's the same one.
No, there was
No.
another one.
Kara Coates was also denied. So she was asking for this to purchase part of the dead end alley, and it did have utilities. This has actually been a conversation brought up by several of you with how do we know when to sell and when not to sell, especially when it comes to utilities. So this is precedent. If we're gonna sell with utilities, we're gonna give easements, then we need to really consider how applications moving forward. I know Kara Coates' property had definite water, sewer lines, other people's meters access to. It's something to consider.
Member Stevens.
So in this particular case, we are not selling any land that has city utilities on it. Okay? And that includes, and the gas meter actually is on the street. not on Brown, it is no different than any other gas service line. So we're not selling a utility line for gas nor sewer. The sewer remains city property. The gas line is like any other property. There's a gas meter there, and it's the individual house service line that is part of this property, as it would be for any of our houses.
So
So
that's how it differs from Kara
that's how it
Coast.
differs. That is correct. So
To your knowledge, we would never have to dig up underneath this house.
no, the sewer line's outside. It's on city property.
So that is a different precedent sitting.
Oh,
here,
yeah.
it
So
sounds
this,
like, yeah.
I don't view this as a precedence at all. This is
Yeah.
about, doggone house got built in the wrong spot.
Yeah.
Any other discussion?
Question for Alessandra. We're gonna get our money's worth from you tonight. Does Bajorquez have a real estate law? Is there anyone specialized on real estate law with Bajorquez?
We do. We have Marianne Landers Banks, if you'd like me to connect you all with specific questions, I would be happy to do that.
Well, I mean, I think expedition is what we're looking for in this case, but I guess my question would be, have you ever seen a case like this and how was it resolved?
I have seen cases like this. It really comes up to, even what was discussed where the city doesn't have a utility on the easement, or on the proposed easement. That makes a big difference, as to whether it's worth it for the city. Cities often, when they propose an easement, they have a utility. That's the whole reason, for them wanting to do the easement, and they still will put the responsibility of maintenance upon the property owner. That's very common. But without the city really having any reason to be on the city, on the strip of land, that it's okay, for the city to do that, but it's a little bit less common to impose the maintenance. The city might have to maintain it.
So what I just heard was that it's common to provide an easement and for that easement to be maintained by the other property owner.
Yes.
But in this situation, and have you ever seen that where it was an issue just like this, where there was a house or a building built over on property?
So I have seen an issue where that comes up, and usually, the city, if there's no reason for the city to want the land, the strip of land, they can kind of negotiate to sell it, but it's really up to you all. That's a decision, that you all have to make. If there's no utility on that land, you kind of have to decide the incentive for how much you want to bargain with the property owner.
And if we weren't worried about expediting this, what would you from legal counsel recommend?
That is, without a utility that you need, I think there's always the issue of someone not maintaining that strip of land. I've just seen kind of like the pictures you provided. I think I would recommend that it's not really in the city's interest to hold on to that strip. I think in the future, if cases arise that, have utilities on them, of course, that's a different situation with an easement. But with this, I don't know, kind of what the city needs, from that particular strip of land.
So just, I'm just trying to understand, we're not asking for an easement.
Correct.
There's no utilities there that we want.
In my mind, I was kind of looking for clarification, especially from legal counsel, on if it would make more sense to provide an easement. And from what I'm hearing, it makes more sense to do this, what we're being presented with. But I wanted to make sure that was.
Fair enough.
Okay.
Any other discussion? Let's vote.
Aye.
Aye.
City Secretary, council has unanimously approved the first reading of ordinance 2024-10-01 unanimously. And with this, we're going to take a 5-minute break. I have a feeling.
Because I'm.
Huh?
Less than a minute, ma'am.
I have three sets for Friday, Saturday for the bluegrass.
Unfortunately, I'm not here. So,
I'll be right
thank
back.
you.
Sweet,
Someone else
out of town, so
Um,
to
I'm in San
bluegrass.
Nice.
All
We have our Native American. Oh, I have.
right, it's time. All right, so back in session at 6:43 PM. Moving on to action item D, city manager.
Approved resolution 2024-10-01, a resolution designating the Alpine Avalanche as the official newspaper of the city of Alpine for fiscal year 24-25.
I need a motion. Second,
Second.
discussion, city manager.
Annually, we do renew our official newspaper. For the past several years, we have had Alpine Avalanche as the official newspaper. This is where we make all of our public notices, when ordinances get approved. Anything that is official in nature does go through the newspaper. I do have one question for JT, who is present, if council will allow it.
JT, please come to the podium.
Put you on the stand.
I like being prepared.
One of the things that we've kind of talked about in the past, and I just wanted to bring it up, is will we have someone present at?
Yeah, and actually, before the meeting started, as we've met before, it's a staffing issue. And got word that someone who's previously worked for us is going to be available starting at the next council meeting. So
Wonderful.
that's fingers crossed, about 95% that's going to happen. It's just literally a staffing issue.
And even if it's not every meeting, I just think sometimes it's nice to have.
No, absolutely. I mean,
official
I
paper represented.
I absolutely agree, but it's just staffing.
Okay. All right, let's see who's up first. Councilmember Martinez,
No question, I agree.
Councilmember Escobedo,
I'm glad that somebody will be here attending.
Yeah.
That's important.
Councilmember Nance.
Aye.
Councilmember Stevens,
Nothing, thank you.
Councilmember Stone,
Short comment, hopefully. What happened to the fellow that was cooking it? I'm just wondering.
Well,
Nothing personal.
yeah,
Yeah.
are you speaking of Kerry Laird? Yeah.
Yes,
Well, if everything goes right, he'll be back here in 2 weeks.
that's awesome.
So-
I think he does a great job. Quick, couple comments, and there might be a question. This law, I know, was made in 1987, and I'm just looking at the front page right now. I know you got to have like a way to make money, and I appreciate you keeping this paper open. Is there any way to put our public notices as well as our, any type of ads that we have of like, I know occasionally we put an ad in the paper that says, don't put stuff in the trash can or whatever it is. Can we put that outside of a paywall and put it on the front page? Doesn't have to be at the top, but.
Yeah, and actually, we have offered both, and it's being taken advantage of, that there's a monthly column that we offer, any department head or whoever, and we go through Megan and Gio for that. I've visited with multiple people multiple times, like, hey, any kind of announcements, like, don't put your charcoal ash or this or that. Like, we can, we'll be glad to help with things like that may not be an official, legal type thing that, we'll be glad to help with. As far as the legal notices, I mean, absolutely, this is the first I've heard. We can put it in front of the paywall. That's easy. We can make a bullet that says City of Alpine legal notices, click on it, and then there they are. Yeah, that's not an issue.
That's all I got. Appreciate you, Jade.
okay, any other discussion? All right, thank you, JT. Let's
JT,
vote.
Apologize, yeah. Aye.
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 City Secretary, council unanimously approved resolution 2024-10-01. Moving on to action item E, city manager.
Approved resolution 2024-10-02, a resolution authorizing the city to participate in the fiscal year 2025 Regional Solid Waste Grant Program.
Motion,
I'll make the motion to approve participation in the fiscal year 2025 Regional Waste Grant Program.
I second.
okay, discussion, city manager.
every year, the Rio Grande Council of Government Solid Waste Advisory Committee gets together to determine how we are going to best utilize the TCQ funds that are awarded through the region. The application changes slightly every year as well. We do have to meet a certain criteria when we apply. Specifically, we're looking at community cleanups, litter prevention, those types of projects. Adelina has done a wonderful job with making sure we utilize this grant for the specific things we need for the year. This past year, we did get the grabber attachment for one of our tractor trailers to help with the continued mulching at the recycling center. This year she's applying for a summer tire amnesty event. So we have done an excellent job as residents of Alpine in cleaning up our tires, but we are not done. Unfortunately, a lot of residents still think that they can put them in a dumpster. That is illegal dumping officially today when we approved the new ordinance. But it is something that causes a problem for residents because our solid waste contractor won't empty the dumpster because it's illegal dumping. So we do charge a small fee at the recycling center. With this grant, the fee will be waived. We open it up to residents. That doesn't mean Bill Williams can come and dump their tires. This is specifically for residents. It would start roughly April, depends on when TCQ approves all the contracts or grants. We're looking at a $3,282.50 project to allow residents to come to the recycling center to dispose of their tires. We do offer one trailer and we'll until it's full. So if it gets full day one, then the event is over. We don't anticipate that happening, but it would be open for the public until the trailer is full. And then the Rio Grande Council of Governments actually manages this whole program. So they pay for everything on our behalf because we're not purchasing any equipment. So they'll do the advertising, they'll cover the disposal of the tires through one of the vendors we utilize. And we're really excited. We're hoping that this next 26 grant, we actually will have a regional program in place for tires. But we want to continue focusing on the tires here in Alpine. And it's just Alpine.
Councilmember Nance.
The only thing I was gonna mention on that was that I had to look up one of the project categories that can actually be applied for is a small registered transfer station. And talk to Megan, we can't do those here, but that might make sense for the county who can also apply for these funds to go through the Real Cog, and that could cover Double Diamond and especially Sunny Glen. All it is a trash can, and that way we know a lot of Sunny Glen people bring the trash in here because it's actually available and everything else. So a small transfer station like that might be an opportunity from a Real Cog standpoint.
Councilmember Stevens.
I think
Councilmember Escobedo.
I think it's a good program. My question is, what happens with residents that can't take their tires and they can get somebody else to take them for them? How does that work?
If another resident takes it, that's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just because the county can apply as well and the different other regional areas can apply. We're trying to limit this to the residents of Alpine.
Councilmember Stone.
Just clarifying, I think we've said this enough, but this isn't for commercial use. And it looks like it's free. I mean, we're spending the money and getting the money reimbursed.
Yes. Well, no, we don't spend any money. Nothing's actually coming
It's a
out of
grant.
our project. Yes, they're gonna cover everything.
Awesome.
Councilmember Martinez.
And this is specific for tires?
Tires, yes. So the reason we chose tires, just so that everyone, the public who has stayed, is Adelina has a monthly cleanup in place already. So we didn't want to put additional funding to something she's already established. We wanted to put something in place that one, we remove our fee that we currently charge to allow residents to tackle their tires that they have collected.
I was just thinking, being creative and artistic. They can do so many projects with tires that just wasting, decorate the backyard, they'll use like a planter. So I don't know, it's just something else, they just dumping the tires, but yeah, I like the idea.
So there is some caveat about the tire decorations. You guys can't actually have them piled up because it does hold water and it becomes a health and
Mosquitoes.
safety with mosquitoes. So those snowmen that you see people kind of throughout
Oh,
the years,
okay.
they're actually not.
Not at all.
Okay, let's vote.
Aye.
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 City Secretary Council unanimously approved Resolution 2024-1002. Moving on to action item F, City Manager.
Approve replat 2024-10-01. A replat allowing the applicant Ruben Lasoya to amend lot lines to provide conformance with R4 zoning requirements for the subject property. The subject property is located at or about 806 South Cactus Street and is legally described as 1.482 acres out of the south 3.0 acres of the west half of Block 2, Means Addition A, Brewster County, Texas, being all of that certain 1.483 acre tract described in document number 105626, official public records of Brewster County, Texas. The property owner of record is Ruben Lasoya. The property ID of the subject property is 11311. The current zoning classification of the property is R4 Mobile Home District. If the replat is approved, the zoning classification of the subject property will remain R4 Mobile Home District.
I need a motion.
I'll move to approve as presented.
I need a second. Discussion, City Manager.
I don't know if council remembers, but a while back, we had some discussion on Ruben Lasoya's property in regards to when he moved a trailer out and wanted to move the trailer back in. Unfortunately, the way his property was platted did not allow for that to occur. He is now going in and has requested to replat the property to allow him to develop each of those different lots with mobile homes if he chooses to.
Okay, Councilmember Stevens.
So this sounds like a good news story.
It is.
Yeah, I mean, this is wonderful. So that's my only comment.
Councilmember Nance.
Only comment I have is how many units are on the lot right now? Do we know that?
1, 2,
I believe there's
5,
5.
5 or 6.
So there will be 5 units on 6 parcels. But one of those is a larger house or something like that. The only reason I ask is this. The whole reason this is occurring is because one unit got moved out and he could not move another one in. So until that happens again, he could have 2 units on one parcel. And then if he ever moved 2 units off that one parcel, we'd be back in the same place. But this is good. I agree with everything here. My only question was, does he currently have 2 units on a parcel after this replat? Do we know that?
Based off of the map, I believe he has more like 1 mobile home on 2 parcels.
Am I reading this correct? It shows the new plot plus where it currently exists. Yes.
So that does show the units?
It does show the units, yeah. Yeah, this is how I said, this is great. Finally.
Because they were kind of different directions, when he moved one out, he couldn't put what he wanted. This will allow that.
So seeing that one open there is probably the one he's gonna move into.
He may or may not hit that wasn't part of the discussion.
Gotcha, okay.
Councilmember Stone.
Is there a mobile home in the street right now, or am I just seeing that? Lasoya Lane, is that private property?
Yes, this is
Okay.
part.
Cool. I love seeing Councilmember Stevens happy.
Councilmember Martinez.
Solve problems.
I think it's a good news. I was on the planning and zoning, when all this was presented to us. And, it was a confusion, first got, C1 and then R4.
Yeah.
So, and we went and walked and there were some really trashy, trailers there. So even though that is almost at the end of the town, this is better. So.
Councilmember Escobedo.
Oh, I'm fine with that.
Okay, let's vote.
Aye.
Aye.
Hooray.
City Secretary Council unanimously approved replat 2024-10-01. Moving on to action item G, City Manager.
Approve special use permit 2024-1001, a special use permit authorizing the applicant Perla Baeza to obtain a malt beverage retail dealer's on-premise license from the Texas Alcoholic Beverage Commission to establish a beer garden that will include malt beverage sales at the subject property. The subject property is located at the previous farmer's market, 107 East Murphy. The property owner of record is Perla Baeza. The parcel ID of the subject property is 34500.
I need a motion.
Make a motion, to approve this.
Okay, I need a second.
I second.
Okay, discussion, city manager.
You did hear information today during the public comments. This item was denied by planning and zoning. It was heard at the end of September. You've had residents come in for and against it. They are asking for a alcohol license for this property. I think it's more if you have questions.
Okay, Councilmember Escobedo.
I did have the opportunity to meet with some of the residents that had issues with this. And being previously on the Planning and Zoning Commission and the recommendation, that's what I feel.
Okay. Councilmember Martinez.
My question is to Robert.
Robert, can you come on up, please? So Robert's our Building Services Director.
My question is about the water. Is they have water, from the city, we provide water, there is no water there?
So they applied for taps, I think just before the purchase of the property. Ms. Baez had come in and asked about it, and then the tap assessments, I believe, were done, but I don't believe they're put in yet. But that's unfortunately on our part.
So-
City Manager.
They do have a water meter on that property. They don't have sewer.
Yeah.
That's why they were gonna put in the porta potties. I do believe they have water. Miss Baez is here.
Yeah.
But they do have water. So prior history, there were some issues with who owned what.
So no sewers,
There is no sewer.
porta potties. That's what happened with the original farmer's market. They didn't have sewer. Yeah, that was
So
an
that's
issue
why-
with the health department.
In her application, she does not have in the porta.
Good deal.
So, is any possibility in the near future to connect it to the source so they can build?
So she's done a tap assessment, which is when our team will go out there and they'll actually assess and see where the main sewer line is, and if it needs an extension to get to that property. And then, of course, there's an extension fee, and then there'd be a tap fee, and if she agrees to that, if there is an extension, the tap fee, and she provides the payment for that, then we move into a work order to actually put in the sewer line. And then it's the property's owner's responsibility from their property line to carry that sewer to wherever they want the restroom to be located.
How long would all that take?
So unfortunately, we're about 21 tap assessments behind. We are currently working through the priority ones from fiscal year 23 to complete. And then we'll get into the 24. We are actually working with local vendors, plumbers and all that, to come in and assist us to get caught up.
What's your estimate for when they can actually have working sewer?
4 to 6 months.
Ouch.
And that's without any big hiccups along the way.
So during that period, she can keep having those portable parties for that period, waiting for us to connect the sun.
I believe unless there's a code that doesn't allow for them.
Yes, that's what I remember.
I
And
think
this
when
is
we
where-
do events,
Yeah, so for like special events, they're good, and for the way the property's being used currently with no structure, it's good to go, but like in her plans, and I've spoke with her already, as soon as the kitchen and the bar that goes in on the east side of the property, she will then have to have an actual ADA compliant male and female bathrooms.
Are the porta potties placed correctly right now? I know there was a
It does,
letter.
there's a, it does. And because of the zoning, it can be right on the property line. Yeah.
Okay, Councilmember Stone.
That was my only question, I think, for planning and zoning, although like to request if we could have Perla available for a couple questions.
Do you have some questions for her?
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you, Robert, but hang tight. We still have other council members. Okay, Perla, can you please come to the podium? And just state your name and your ward.
Again, it's Perla, Ward 4.
Okay.
Perla, I just wanted to bring you up because you only got 3 minutes, so I want to acknowledge that you're requesting this, and I want to make it available that we talk to you about it. And feel free to answer these however you want to. You don't have to either, obviously. Are you planning to stay in town? Is this your new home?
Yes, like I said before, I am originally from the area. This is my home. I came back from Austin to live here. I came back home.
Sure.
This is my home.
Sure.
Yes.
And so in your business, is this going to be your primary business that you're planning to do? Do you have any other businesses that you're planning or anything else right now, jobs?
No, I don't have any other businesses planned. I do have a lot of ideas for that particular area where we're at right now.
Yeah.
And yes, I did get caught up earlier, but I do want to be able to address everybody's questions regarding, you know, everything that they had going on. I want to be able to provide something for the community and the children. It is not just a bar. The whole alcohol thing is just so that the adults can also have something to sit down and sip on when we're having stuff during the day. If that is something that the community doesn't want, I can do without the alcohol. I'm perfectly okay without that, just so you know.
Okay, and that's kind of what the point I was getting to is that we'll have to ask questions here and there, but as far as I know, folks could bring their own beer to your lot if you had a kids movie or, and I want to make sure that I'm saying that correctly, but it would BYOB at a movie night on her lot be allowed if she's not selling alcohol there?
I believe, yeah, she can give
yeah.
it away.
Yeah.
I mean, there's not a.
So,
yeah, as long as I'm not selling it.
yeah, so my thought here, and just especially with planning and zoning, not diving deep into that because it sounds like it was just a decision, as well as I'm taking our council member and Ward 4 into consideration too, is that the lot just as it is just isn't the greatest place to run an alcoholic business at the moment is what I'm seeing, but yeah.
Sure, and that's understandable. Sure, that's something we would have to work on.
Perla,
I'm
I have a
sorry.
question for you.
Mhm.
So I know some residents are concerned that you were gonna have bands and music there, and then the Ritchie's just not far
Sure.
away, and then it's gonna be even louder with both venues playing music. Can you elaborate on that, please?
Sure, there is a stage already set up there that was there before from when it was the farmer's market. And I don't plan on having music every day of the week. One, I can't afford to be paying a band for every single day. The Ritchie does that. I want to be able to hold events eventually. Sure, why not? And have just regular music. Like I said before, the week before I set up the speaker and I went ahead and walked across the street to see how loud I can have that music and still be able to have it comfortable, whether it's, you know, pleasant for us there and not being able to cross the road, so to speak, from where the farmer's market is at. But yeah, I mean, music, sure, everybody wants music when they're, you know, having a good time. I want it to be like a park, somebody's backyard that you're just going out and having, you know, a party. That's what I wanted it to be. And like I said, the alcohol was extra because I figured, okay, throw in something for the parents.
Okay, Councilmember Stevens, you're next.
Well, my view is property owners ought to do with their property what they want. That's kind of my going in position. I do have a number of questions that to try to understand. The hours that are on your application are from 4 in the afternoon to 12 a.m. Monday through Saturday.
Sure.
So this is a significant shift from being a farmer's market to now being an ongoing concern.
Sure, not a problem. I want to be able to keep the 4 o'clock because it's, you know, after hours or whatever. And it is something that is open throughout the day because like I said, it should be a park kind of looking thing and not really a bar. The midnight thing that I left on there was because for some of the special events, I do want to be able to hold up special events eventually and have it go through midnight. This is not an everyday thing. This is just something that I want to be able to have out there so that we are able to do it in case of an event.
And this is intended to be a commercial money-raising proposition.
Mhm,
So what I think I've heard is you intend to sell beer.
mhm.
Do you intend to sell food?
The food thing is where I'm stuck. I went ahead and put it in there because eventually that is going to be the plan. I want to be able to have either a food truck right now because I don't have anything available to open up a full kitchen. So yes, eventually that would happen. At the time where I'm at right now, no. I am trying to set up so that I can have a food truck come in from time to time.
Okay,
So there is no actual food being sold. Snacks, of course, because, if you're having something to drink, popcorn or pretzels or something like that, but not anything to be prepared in the property now. I'm not gonna cook.
yeah, so is the primary fundraising selling of beer and snacks, or is there an entry fee to come in? How's all that work?
I don't want to have an entry fee. I want it to be free to the public. And that's where the selling of the alcohol came in and the snacks and the whatnots, because then that would cover those cover charges. If this is something that I can't do, is sell the alcohol or sell, something that would be able to bring me anything, then yes, I would have to definitely have a fee for somebody to be able to come in. I have to be able to make some money to keep up with the property.
We talked about water, so we talked about restrooms. So your intention is not to sell food prepared on the property, but bring in a food truck.
Correct. That would not be even under me. The food truck would be having their own certifications and everything.
Okay. And what was the reason that planning and zoning voted against this recommendation? Does anyone know?
It was mainly just sympathizing with the property, the neighboring property owners who opposed it.
Okay. And then, Robert, I have a question about parking.
Robert, come on up.
Yeah. This is zoned C1. Correct? I'm sorry?
M1, I believe.
Oh, it's M1. Okay, so I missed on that.
mobile.
No, it's industrial. And how, so, and I should have done better homework on it. Computation of parking spaces based upon number of feet of the particular whatever is on the property.
We go off of occupancy, and so that would be determined upon the CO.
On the what?
On the CO, so the certificate of occupancy.
Okay.
So once that's given, then we'll be able to determine the parking that's required. So right now, if it was to go as a tavern for the CO, I think it's like 1 for every 100 individuals or something like that. If I remember off the top of my head for the zoning. If you want, I can look it up.
Right, I can look it up, that's fine.
Yeah.
Okay, so it would have to comply with the parking requirements.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Okay. And I'll look that up. I've got no other questions right now, thank you.
Okay, Councilmember Nance.
I guess question here, that's M1 now, and M1 can actually have breweries and distilleries. So if Perla was trying to pursue a brewery or distillery, would there be any holdup on this?
Special use, conditional use permit.
It would still require a cut.
If I remember the ordinance correctly, it says for a brewery or distillery, it has to have a special use conditional use permit. However, hers would be under a tavern, and I believe that's C2 or C1, which is also permissible in that area, as well as an R1 and R2.
Which wouldn't have.
Right, and those would not.
Gotcha. Distilleries, conditional, following uses may be permitted provided they meet the provisions of a conditional use permit.
Mhm.
Then I guess my question is, I'll just go through a couple of these. Comprehensive plan, I think when we have a comprehensive plan, when we start working through that process, there's going to be people that are happy and there's going to be people that are really not happy. I think that's going to be something that we're about to face with the way all that works. So from my perspective, I don't want to view this as you know, a business being close to a house or anything else. I like to try and view it from just zoning. So I guess where I'm at is, Megan, can you speak a little bit about what is required of opening? Or like, I guess, where is the demarcation between state TABC seeking that malt liquor permit and then just us in the process?
So currently, the process we have in place is to take everything before planning and zoning under a conditional use permit and then take it to city council. This allows one for public comment. This also allows for kind of a process in place. We have no formal alcohol ordinance that would kind of alleviate some of these problems if we specifically said you can serve or sell alcohol in these locations. And you don't have to necessarily go through the permitting process. The state doesn't actually have a process. It has to be approved within so many days, I believe 30, Gio. And Gio could just sign off on it and never take it before council or planning and zoning. When we started, we wanted to make sure we put that process in place because it is important to get the feedback from everyone, but to also understand the state doesn't require it. I mean, if they come in, we sign off on it and then it gets approved. I know Gio's mentioned it and I'm in agreement. The city does need an alcohol ordinance. Currently, we do follow the state guidelines, obviously. And the biggest one that they have is you can't have it within so many feet of a school, which we do make sure we maintain. So in this case, our ordinance, like, was pointed out, if it was a tavern, there's no question about it. We established the process and procedure so that we could get the public input and so that council was aware of what was going on, because we don't have ordinances or anything that guides us to where can we have alcohol, where can we sell it.
So what I just heard there is the state requires having a permit to sell alcohol, but you can sell it anywhere. They don't care where you sell it. The city is the one that puts the restrictions on the location.
The state does put a restriction as far as they can't be within so many feet of a school.
Okay, and that's it.
I think a church too, would actually be wrong.
Technically, I could sign off on this without coming through y'all, because when it asks on the certificate, it asks, I certify that this is not prohibited by charter or ordinance. But we started bringing it to not have one person making those decisions absent a strong zoning ordinance, because in most cities, there's like a little certification, or like, the city secretary will send it to building or planning and they'll sign off, yes, it's acceptable in that zone, real easy. But since we don't have one of those, we started sending them this way so we can have that broad public engagement and review notification process. And so it wouldn't be dependent on one person. But technically, I mean, I could sign off on it right now because we don't have an ordinance or a charter provision disallowing alcohol in that zone. In fact, it would probably be acceptable in the zone, really.
And if that was issued, I guess this would be a question for Perla, and that
We gotta have you on the
You're
microphone.
gonna-
Sorry. Yeah, you have to be on the microphone.
like if I was opening a business there, before I put money into that, I would want some sort of belief that I'm gonna be able to receive a permit or to actualize whatever my dreams for the property are. And before you put money into a property like that, you would rather know if we were gonna accept this or deny this. Am I correct in saying that?
Sure.
Okay.
So I did not, yes. I haven't put a lot of money into it right now. I definitely started on it, but I have not put a lot of money into it right now, exactly the way I want it. Like I said, the kitchen stuff, the bathroom, starting all that stuff going on, because I'm on hold because of where we're at right now.
And one individual had put in about C1, I believe, which comes back to the C1. That's industrial right now, but you're directly across from a C1, I believe, which means it wouldn't be a spot zone or anything else. So if we came back in and put in an alcohol ordinance or anything else like that, and we said it requires to be in a commercial property, then you could just basically rezone, and now you're applicable.
She wouldn't have to rezone because M1 allows for C1, C2. So remember, we have the trickle down effect. So when you're an industrial, you can do certain things that fall under the other zones as well.
So even if we put that restriction in there, it wouldn't matter on this one. Okay.
I mean, unless you like specifically excluded in one.
Right. Gotcha. And then we come back into the part of conditional use permit, which I don't like playing. I I know sometimes the public likes for us to come in and, you know, say, yes, you're allowed, but you're not allowed. And I really like clear lines of just like, it is allowed. I don't like picking favorites or anything else like that on the way that works. And one of the individuals had mentioned about the needs of the neighborhood, which is true, and it is in this document about the needs of the neighborhood. But I would actually kind of mention, we don't know what the needs of the neighbor, what will determine the needs of the neighborhood is the success or failure of the business. If you're wildly successful, then the neighborhood obviously had a need that wasn't being met. So that really can't be known until that actually happens.
Come on up.
State your name again.
Patricia, Ward 4. I just wanted to ask, she is M1, but C1 is included in M1, is that correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so does she go by the guidelines for the property for M1 or for the guidelines of the property for C1?
Either or. It's on what she's doing.
Because it's different. And then she's across from C1, so I don't, you know, that's where I came in with the structures and the porta potty, because for C1, the rear has to be 15 feet. I have not checked, you know, in C1, in M1, what the dimensions and stuff for building on are.
So she doesn't have an actual building yet, so those don't apply.
But
The
but it,
potties can go
even if
wherever.
it's a structure of
But
some
when the
kind.
structure comes into place, then she would have to follow based on the structure she's building.
Okay, and if she would follow the guidelines under M1 or
Well,
C1?
if she's building a brewery, she would follow the brewery guidelines. If she's, I mean, so if when you look at the ordinances, it breaks down the different types of not occupations. The different types of businesses that are allowed. And so those businesses, like a restaurant would obviously have a different setup than another. Yeah.
Dimensional guidelines. One other question that I have. The music issue. What is our guarantee that the music will be low and not, you know, combining with the Ritchie Hotel, which we already don't like and we know is loud on many occasions. When she has music, what guarantee are the residents and the neighborhood gonna have that that's not gonna be clashing and causing, you know, noise in our homes that we don't like?
Could you give us a small minute of what our noise ordinance is?
So I feel like we're getting off topic.
Sure.
The whole topic is a alcohol permit. It is not a music permit, it's not a noise, it's not a parking.
Permit.
I mean, there's a whole different.
She would have to come
Yeah.
back for those,
Yeah,
correct?
so I want to get us back on track with the alcohol permit. Because we could do this all day with what about this, what about that? And I don't think that's fair, you know, to have discussions outside of this is for an alcohol.
So it's good to point out that for music, she would have to come back and get a permit.
Yes.
Correct? And for building, she would have to get.
There's permitting for
With the
buildings,
Robert, yeah.
there's a lot of steps before this can be accomplished.
Yeah.
Thank you.
One question I would ask Carla is, have you pursued the CABC license yet? Or is this your first step?
No, this is the first attempt.
So you haven't pursued through the state to get your?
I went ahead and did everything online and I have yet to hear back. So everything was done online and I have not heard anything
So you're
back.
moving forward with that process.
Correct. And I was told it takes about a year to a year and a half for me to even receive a certification or an approval from
And then
TABC.
the state part has to be included with the application, and they're still posting notices, and there's a bit of work that has to be done.
Yeah.
She doesn't get to sell tomorrow.
Right.
If we didn't approve this, would she still be able to apply? I know it might be different between county and city, but to like a special event, say Fiesta 1886 or whatever it is, or Art Walk or something like that to be able to sell?
So Mary Ann Lujan actually does have a special use permit for events for alcohol.
So the current property owner, or, I'm sorry.
No,
the
the
neighboring-
neighboring one,
the neighbor.
You mentioned yesterday to me, that's why the name came to me.
Yeah.
So she did go through a process to get approval to do things.
right,
Okay.
thank you, thank you.
And then the question for Megan, sorry, would be, if we
Thank you.
approve this, what are take me through a thought process. If we approve this, what are next steps?
So the next steps is Geo certifies it and then she goes off and finishes the state side. As far as everything else that pertains, it doesn't pertain to the alcohol. She may never use the permit. We don't know if her long-term goal, because the state may deny it. We don't know. But everything that you guys have brought up all has a process before she can actually move forward to the next step. So if she wants to build, she's got to go through building. If she wants music, she has to go through music. You guys are just looking at the alcohol, and then what she does with it. I mean, if she sells beer there, or if she doesn't, it's something she'd have.
And since zoning and planning denied it, we need 4 out of 5. No?
That's only on zoning.
Okay.
Did you
Right.
have something like that? Sorry.
Are we ready to vote?
Yes.
We're ready to vote.
So what we're talking about, and this goes back to something that Darren brought up. You know, comprehensive plan. And we've got a lot of work to do on that. The permit for alcohol is one thing, which may or may not be used. I get that point, and that's what this is about. The question that is coming up in my mind, that I know come up from residents, is, are we after creating, and it's industrial areas that you can basically go put a park bench and some porta potties on? To me, that's a fundamental question, and I just, for one, look and say, boy, that's not on my list of things that I want to see Alpine do. I know that's not before our discussion, but to me, that's where the struggle I'm coming up with.
I think because she is M1, I think you guys have to take into consideration, she is M1 because of the railroad.
Yeah, I got it.
So everyone else has been rezoned at some point, but all of the property along the railroad is M1.
Yeah.
So she just never, I mean, that property just never was rezoned. When you look at the comprehensive plan, that is to provide a direction moving forward.
Yes.
So I kind of, M1, yeah, you know, a park bench with, but I don't think that's the intent council's looking for. And I think when we look at zoning and we further in the agenda some discussion, I think it will answer more of your questions.
Yeah. So so I'm struggling one hand between just a beer permit, quote unquote, but I'm more worried about the long-term comprehensive plan, and this is a piece that leads to, I think we have a lot of work to do. And I don't want to put us in a position where Perla starts heading down a path, says, okay, I got this, I got a bunch of other things to do. I just think there's a lot more to think about in working a business in Alpine, and I just worry about the long-term game plan. So I've said my piece, I'll be quiet.
I want to thank Gio for bringing it this way, and I hope that we'll bring this into an ordinance as well.
Well,
the way that we're doing this, yeah.
But it is part of our, I mean, I looked and says, it is part of our ordinance. While you say technically the permit is not, you can't have a brewery or a distillery without a permit.
Yeah.
So, anyway.
Let's, Robert, yep, Robert, come on up.
So, in regards to what Rick's getting at. So, like, she's aware that just like the property next door, those are only allowable and permissible with a special use, or I'm sorry, like a live music event or special use conditional use. It's not like she can't get a certificate of occupancy for an empty lot.
Yeah.
So like, you can't just occupy an empty lot in the city limits. And so it'll have to be attached with events until a primary structure is built and a definitive direction is made. And then it'll go into our zoning ordinance on whether it's going to be M1, C2, C1, or if she changes her mind and wants to go R2 or R1, which is also permissible in that area. And then we'll go off of our setbacks and sanitation and parking and everything. And that's why I'm saying, like during the planning and zoning, Like, I don't have a definitive direction yet. There's no CO, so there's nothing I can do. And then based off of our zoning ordinance, I can't legally tell you what you can and can't do on your property outside of that. But, you know, without a CO, you can't do anything without y'all's permission for that event to happen, which will require the sanitation, which is the porta potties that are allowable without a primary structure.
For temporary events.
Right.
And is it, how do we define temporary? Thank you. So I'm just raising the question, so we have some work to do.
Yes.
You know, it goes back to Darren's comment. I mean, part of our role is, let's make sure we understand how we're defining the rules. Let's have that debate in a way so we take this judgmental discussion out of it. And we've got some work to do.
I like how we're getting to know how everybody thinks though, because hopefully that plays into we're getting closer to the work that we're gonna do.
So, okay, thank you. But thanks for your indulgence on that.
Thank you.
I'm just gonna ask a question. Would it make sense to table this? I mean, I don't think Perla's in a rush to actually move forward on it. She's got a year probably before she gets accepted by the state, so that we're not making a definitive statement of affirmative or nay today. We just table where we can learn more.
Can she apply again if we say no? Because we know that.
Oh, I guess we would postpone.
Well, I think for Perla, it does stop the state fine. So then you're prolonging her to go forward. Am I correct, Perla? She needs the approval from the city to move forward with the state.
And the county won't sign off until we sign off. Yeah.
Can she apply again if we said no today? Or is that
Yeah, she'd have to pay another $350.
Who's not paying? Gio, you said that you can sign. What about if we don't approve it, you can sign anyway?
Well, I wouldn't do that, because Rick is right, but this is a brand new ordinance. The M1 ordinance was barely implemented this year, I believe.
Yeah, it was.
So prior to that, spot that does say it is required in an M1, there's no other areas of the ordinance that really says that. So we definitely have some work to do on the alcohol ordinance. But yeah, to answer your question, I wouldn't sign off on it.
Yeah.
Like I put them through the process for a reason, so, we can make sure that's what we need.
Well, we can encourage the community to open their own business legally. And she is opening
But I
business
can't
legally through asking our approval. So if we don't approve, that will stop her to keep moving on, because I mean, she has a long way to go. Right now, we just have to approve or deny the alcohol permit, so she can keep going and do all the improvements, all the plans that she has. So it doesn't mean that because we approve tomorrow, she has a party there. So she has a long way to go, and we wanted to, I mean, like you said, some people agree, some disagree, but we have to support the economy. So we'll be paying taxes and all the stuff, so moving the economy.
So, my thing is that most cities have strong zoning ordinances, which clearly state it's allowed in this zone, it's not allowed in this zone. And it would make it much easier. And if you think about, what would you want in an industrial zone or a commercial zone, typically probably would be allowed. I think it's just weighing everything and deciding what you want to do.
Yeah, because most of the places they sell alcohol is for adults, and she's allowing kids and family to come, So that makes a difference. It's different for the other places.
All right, can we expedite in putting in some restrictions on cups for things like this? The only where I'm at is I think that area, I mean, I compare it to the Ritchie. If it was rezoned and it was C1, then I don't see the difference between that property outside of safety, bathrooms or anything else like that. If she came in and put a occupancy on there, I would treat it just like the Ritchie. I want to treat people the same. And that is directly across from a commercial property, so it could be rezoned in that regard. But that kind of what Mr. Stevens said, I don't want everyone with a residential zone to say, well, now I'm going to go get a TBC license and start to sell. So how quickly could we actually put some teeth within an ordinance to remove that? I don't want her to have to come back and do 350 again, while we're doing an ordinance.
So we do have the ordinance process. I did just ask Gio if he had a sample, so we could look at from an alcohol ordinance perspective. that we could present to council. Still have to have the 2 weeks to allow for review. If we are going to look at changing it within the zoning, then you would want planning and zoning to see it as well to provide some guidance.
So everyone would have to go through P and Z and then us anyway.
Yes, because they are your advisory board. You did select these individuals to provide you some guidance. It would go through them, which would not be till the end of October. And then a possible, well, so how we have it set up with them is discussion, then an action item. So you're looking at 2 months, and then you guys get 2 weeks as well as the legal team, and then it would become a first reading. So ideally, this may not come into play until January.
And what I just heard too then there is that the PNC thought that this should not be approved in that area, in an industrial commercial area. I would, if they don't think that a beverage license should be put within a commercial industrial area, they're definitely not going to think it should be put next to your house. I think the unfortunate issue here is that there is a house in a commercial zone right across from there. So I think the teeth for you guys to actually keep the quality of life is going to be noise ordinance and those kinds of restrictions like that. Because I think, unfortunately, y'all got prime real estate downtown.
Okay, are we ready to vote? Okay.
Okay.
Aye.
Aye.
Nay.
Okay, City Secretary, the special use permit 2024-10-01 failed with Councilmember Stone, Councilmember Escobedo, and Councilmember Stevens voting against, Councilmember Martinez, Councilmember Nance voting for. Okay, moving on to.
Mayor, can I make one other comment?
Sure.
If in fact it comes back forward, I'll pay the $350 reprocessing. Because I don't think it's fair to have to redo that, but I'll take care of it.
Okay, thank you, Councilmember Stevens. All right, moving on to action item H. Councilmember Stevens.
So we all witnessed one of the Ward 5 residents come in during one of the meetings. Because we've had a discussion before in council about the speed at which people go down Avenue B, Saul Ross.
Councilmember Stevens, can you read it first?
I'm
Let's
sorry.
get a
Thank you,
motion.
thank you. Keep
Yeah,
that.
because, yeah,
That's okay.
it sounds like you're into the discussion.
I'm in the discussion. Thank you,
Okay.
Mayor, for getting me set straight.
Okay,
I propose approval of a speed hump on Avenue B to reduce the speed limit. That's my motion.
I'll second.
okay, all right, now continue.
Okay, now, because we've had this discussion before, there are speeders that go down. I have personally witnessed it. That is a 20-mile-an-hour zone on the university and on the city side. I put up the $1,000 to go put in a flashing stop sign at the intersection where it goes from the university property to the city property, and people still blow right past it. And for me, it's a safety issue. And speed bumps are, in my mind, too much. Speed humps are in fact effective because they do slow people down. And that's why I make the proposal to put a speed hump there. I think it could be an opportunity to try it out in the city because we've all talked about the number of speeders that go zipping around. Having to pay for more police officers to go monitor that, in my view, is not an effective deterrent unless the police car is there. And I would certainly hate to see someone get injured. So that's the basis for my proposal.
Okay, Councilmember Nance, you're next.
Question for Geo, parliamentarian. I've done some images today of a possibility. What I'd like to discuss is making that a bike lane. Is it possible to share these with council, maybe the public, just to, because I know it wasn't in the packet.
Are you talking about share now and when?
Yes, share now.
Right now?
Yes.
It's technically against the rules, but at the mayor's discretion.
Okay, parliamentarian, is this in order?
Well,
We're talking about
technically-
speed humps instead of bicycle lanes or.
Traffic safety.
So
I could
mean,
make an amendment. And then it could get voted down if, kind of doesn't like it. That doesn't bother me.
Parliamentarian, what's your ruling?
So I would say that, it's at the presiding officer's discretion, because technically it is against the meeting and it needs to be in the packet, for transparency reasons, subject to appeal by the city council.
Okay, as far as the discussion regarding bicycle lanes, can we have that now?
I would say, yes.
Okay. All right, and yes, you can share that then, if it's at my discretion. As long as.
And I don't know if the public
Order.
would want this.
I've seen.
And
Yeah.
so basically, what this is
I can comment dance.
that, so that road,
Oh.
Avenue B
Yeah.
is about 32 feet across, I believe. And so what I did is just quickly kind of do some drawings of what a bike lane might look on that road. A couple reasons to kind of do a bike lane possibly was Avenue B, so the right side, the Sol Ross side over there. The sidewalk kind of just dead ends right there at the corner of Loop Road and Avenue B. So this would kind of provide a protected walk lane up to Hancock Hill and kind of the dorm sections. This is the only road and path to Hancock Hill. So if someone's going to ride a bike or something in there, it removes them from that Avenue B traffic lane. TxDOT requires 11 to 12 feet per lane, which if this is 32, which is, I didn't measure the whole street the whole way up, but I did measure some areas, it's 30 to 32 feet. That would leave about, if you had 12, you're looking at 24, so 6 to 8 feet extra for a multi-use bike or walk lane there. This would allow dorms and anyone with a bike up at the dorms to kind of have a safe way to come down Avenue B to get into town. That's a heck of a hill if you're riding a bike. So it removes those people off that roadway so they can slowly pedal up that road and not get in the way of traffic. And what this would be, the way these are called flex post. All it is, you know, maybe a 3 foot high, little bitty plastic, traffic thing. We've all seen them in traffic. So the entire project would require some paint and these flexible posts to kind of put as protection. What that does is, Mr. Stevens and I have the same idea and the same goal in this, slowing down traffic on that lane. I come from like a strong towns perspective where when you thin lanes down, it forces the drivers to actually drive slower. They're cognizant of people being there and they just naturally drive slower. If you have a 16-foot lane, then you're going to drive faster than if you have a 12-foot lane.
So are you proposing an amendment that instead of speed humps that we do this, or in addition to speed humps?
I guess I would propose, because everything's more complex than what we think it is. I would propose that we work with the police department and maybe traffic to research the validity of this to see if it is something that we could do. I mean, just looking through these, the first one shows you the lane. The second spot, I drew a green polygon over here of the entrance exit. What this looks like basically is the bike lane would be on the right. Typically NACDO standards, which is traffic standards for bike people, is on entrances and ingress egress into parking lots, you paint that area green so that drivers, when they're entering it or exiting it, are cognizant that something's different, that they're not just pulling into a street. So that would be important to have kind of on that section. But you can kind of see along the road on the next photo, there is a curb, this red Bezier curb. There's an actual curb on this section, and all that grass area is exactly what Eddie talked to us about earlier. How grass grows into the asphalt. So even though this probably is within the street section, Eddie's team would have to come back in, remove all this grass, and really measure out that is 30 to 32 feet. And some of this is 32 feet, some of this probably 28 feet because you got 4 feet of grass on that side. And this would be the side we might be putting traffic into. So that would be a research section. Page 4, I was just going to show you, this is a sidewalk. And then some of the things I think that we'll be correcting over time is this is a sidewalk that goes to a parking lot on the church side and directly into a bush on this side. So we've got a sidewalk directly into a bush. I don't know many people that want to walk on that one. And then the final one that I really enjoyed is this. This is at the top of the hill, which I think is Sol Ross property. So this wouldn't be our discretion. But what I find humorous is there is a sidewalk on the left side. And at the very top of the hill, if you cross over, there's a pedestrian crossing sign at the very top right. That pedestrian crossing sign goes directly into this huge field, which is telling us, watch out for people that there's no walking, biking, or anything over here, people that might get lost in this field and want to cross over to this section. So that would come back into this section here for a bike path kind of at the top. And it looks like at some point there was an intention that that was going to be a sidewalk area, a crosswalk area, because they already had a sign even though there's no crosswalk.
So you're proposing in lieu of
Well, this would be a Sol Ross. This would be the ultimate vision of the plan. We could go up halfway and kind of do our part. And then the last thing I was going to mention on this, sorry, I'm talking a lot on it, but is we're doing the TxDOT mobility bike study. And this would be a good beta test to kind of show the public what this can look like, what these options can kind of look like. So that the public comes back in and they may say, that makes no sense. It's interfering with traffic and driving, but I think it's a good way to kind of get local people to see what this can kind of be and how easy or difficult can be. These flex posts, all they do, there's 4 bolts. So really you go out there, you drill 4 holes into the asphalt, you put a bolt into them all, and now you're set. So it could all be done quite cheaply.
I have one or more amendments as laid out.
Okay, so we have no amendments on the table as of yet, correct?
I would like to make an amendment that we work with the traffic and police departments to research the possibility of a bike lane in this section for Avenue B, for the property from Loop, Avenue B and Loop up to as far up the hill as the property that we own.
Is this in lieu of the speed bumps or in addition to?
I would do in lieu. I mean, the speed bumps too could be a thing at the very top before you enter this section to slow down traffic. But that could be a Sol Ross thing if they would be on board with that. That way, before you really start getting on, it would force you to slow down before you start falling down Avenue B. But that wouldn't be on our property.
Okay, so it's in lieu of. Okay, so your amendment is work with the traffic and police departments to research bike lanes from Avenue E to the top of the hill in lieu of
speed humps. And the top to the top of our property,
Okay.
the top of city property.
Do we know where the
Top
city
of-
property is?
Yeah, it's not.
Of city property.
This stop sign like at the street base of it? Okay.
Okay, so do I have a second for that amendment? Okay, no second. All right, so that amendment fails. Okay, Councilmember Stone, you said you had some amendments.
I do. May I make a few questions before I?
Yes.
Yes. So you noted the stop sign, is that the one at the top of the hill or at the bottom of the hill?
It's the top of the hill, right at the intersection of Sol Ross property and city property.
So on
The flashing sign.
the picture on the final page. No, that's not a stop sign, that's a pedestrian sign. Trying to figure out where that stop sign is.
The stop sign, you would not see it on these pictures because you'd only see it from the Sol Ross side.
Okay, so do we have the ability to put a speed bump on that street then? Since it's Sol Ross's
So
street?
it'd be on city property. Right now, there's a stop sign. Do we actually put on Sol Ross property that everyone blows through?
Gotcha.
That's what's going on.
Gotcha.
The strategy was put a sign there,
Yeah.
about sign, flashing sign. You can't miss it. It's just the cars
Yeah.
zip on through.
I'd like to make an amendment to do this plan in addition to changing it to just one speed bump. As described by Councilmember Stevens.
Speed hump or speed bump?
Excuse me,
Okay, can you please elaborate on the plan, do the bicycle?
do the bicycle plan as outlined in the allowed packet.
It's not.
In addition to one speed hump.
In addition to, okay. So the amendment is do the bicycle plan as outlined in the allowed packet in addition to one speed hump.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, do I have a second on that amendment?
And then we could discuss where that hump would be.
Hold on, I have a question. Rick, so are you saying you're wanting how many speed bumps or speed?
One speed hump.
Oh.
Just trying to slow the traffic down.
Yeah.
I'm with you.
Do I have a second on that amendment?
I'll second.
Okay, so we can continue discussion on that amendment. Councilmember Nance asked if we would have discretion on where the speed hump is. Councilmember Martinez, we have not heard from you yet.
That was my question. So because the Hans saw that we're talking about several, but now they say just one.
Just one.
Just one. I agree with that one because I live in Gallego and they play races in front of my house. I asked about this before, a long time ago, to put something like that because is a family farm is not far away from where I live, and so this is a good idea. I don't know about the bicycle. I never walk on that side, so. But I know for sure how people, especially young people, drive like crazy in town. So I agree with that, with one.
Okay, Councilmember Escobedo, we have not heard from you yet.
I am in agreement.
With the amendment. Okay, any other discussion?
The clarification then on the amendment is to move forward with it and put a speed hump in here. Where, do we know where would that be at the discretion of the city?
It would be, it's a city street. The discretion of the city, and that's, I'd work with Daryl, chief of police, to figure out where the best spot is to slow people down. That's all we're trying to do.
City manager?
Speed limit's 20 miles an hour.
So I would like to work with Daryl and Eddie as to the location. Because just based off the conversation you just had, it sounds like it starts at Sol Ross and they're not slowing down up at Sol Ross and then they're just coming into the city at full speed. So I think that it will have to be a strategic location. In order to make sure that it does have an effectiveness to it. So I would like to work back with Daryl and.
That makes logical sense.
Yes.
Okay, let's vote on the amendment, which is to do the bicycle plan as outlined in the allowed packet in addition to one speed hump. In favor of the amendment?
Aye.
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 May I ask a question? Where's the funding gonna come from for the bike lane?
Okay, let's finish voting on the amendment. Okay. Okay, so the amendment is unanimous. As far as funding.
So the question is also, where the funding was gonna come for the speed hump.
I pay for the stop sign. I'm prepared to pay for the speed hump. Because frankly, my view is, and we have talked about speeders in this town for the last 8 years. In fact, since 2014, since I've seen it, and we've never been willing to do it. I was willing to go pay for it to try it out. It may be a disaster, okay, but the city, in my view, so for me, that's why I asked the question. All of our motions are supposed to have, where's the funding come from? Yours truly paid for the stop sign. Yours truly is going to pay for the speed hump too. Try it out. But we don't have a way right now in our budget to approve bike lanes or anything else. And so somewhere we council have to decide what we're gonna pay for that.
Maybe we go one more time around.
Well, actually, no, so you asked to approve the amendment based off of Darren. Darren's amendment was to research and work with traffic and law enforcement to look at putting it in. It wasn't to go in and put them in.
I'm
It
good
was
with that.
literally just to go see, and as far as
That's fair.
funding, it could come out of street maintenance materials.
Sure.
Because that is kind of a catch-all.
I think my amendment, just to clarify it, and I think what we voted on was to put them in. Is that correct?
No, we voted to do the bicycle plan as outlined.
In this, yeah.
And what does that mean?
Approve
Do
the package.
means
Do put them in.
Has to be there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's.
There's gonna be the research, even if we put them in, the funding can come out of street maintenance
That's, yeah,
materials.
that's
Because
my
that's
understanding.
where my mind did go on this, like, I can draw this and make it pretty on a page, but there's trash cans on that side. You know, how is trash gonna be involved when somebody's driving down that lane?
Oh, yeah.
There's only curbing on certain sections, like everything in the world is more complex. So we really need to get good eyeballs on the ground there and say, this is a pie in the sky idea. I just really think that this is gonna be, I mean, it looks like it, I'm passionate about it. It looks like it could actually really be cool and work. And it would be an opportunity to kind of tiptoe into this kind of idea for Alpine, which ultimately we're about to be dropping $240,000 into TxDOT to come in and say, where do we want sidewalks? Where do we want bike lanes? And if we come at that with no idea of even visually what a bike lane looks like in the city, then I think we're kind of behind. But I agree, very, very complex research and get the experts involved.
So parliamentarian, should we make an amendment to the amendment to make sure we have the word research in there?
If the council's in agreement, I can just amend it to include the word research.
That.
Okay,
I
are you
can say
agreeing to include
I
the-
can say I agree, but my intent was honestly to use this as a beta test because it leads up to our biggest hike and bike area in the town. And I think we ought to just go for it. And I thought it was a good compromise to say, let's get a hump in and I'm down to go with research, but at the same time, I think this is so low cost and that's my personal opinion that we ought to just do it. But if you mind going this way to see what folks want to say to that. too.
Yeah, Councilmember Martinez. You started, go with it. Research. Okay, Councilmember Nance.
And I would say research for one reason, the whole north side or the whole east side of this is Sol Ross, so we can work with them as a partner to kind of see where this might lead as well.
Councilmember Escobedo.
I'll agree with.
Okay, Councilmember Stevens.
Yeah, I'm a cyclist. I ride 100 miles. I believe bicycle lanes are important. I just don't know that's the best place to try it. Because I know when people go up to Hancock and people hike on the 40 acres I've got there, they don't walk up that road. They go park up by Mountainside and they take off from there. And I've yet to see anyone cycle up Avenue B to go do something, including students, because they're driving up and down. So I'm wildly in favor of doing the bike lane research. I'm just not sure this is our best place to go do it.
Okay.
That's
I love
my-
unanimous.
It's
Bike lane
research.
research.
Okay, City Secretary, research, you can go ahead and add that in there for the amendment. So the amendment is do the bicycle research plan as outlined in the allowed packet. In addition to one speed hump.
Should we vote one more time or are we good?
We do know we have to vote one more time to dispose of the original motion as amended. Okay,
Aye.
Aye.
all
Aye.
right, so passes unanimously, City Secretary. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hopefully we can tell him that we're working towards it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's more than him. Yeah, it's.
All right, moving on to action item I, City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. Last action item is to approve a 12-month lease with CAPS, van and truck rental for 2 vehicles utilized by officers participating in the high-intensity drug trafficking program for fiscal year 2024-2025.
Okay, I need a motion.
Make the motion to approve the 12-month lease with CAPS.
I need a second. Okay, City Manager, discussion.
So in researching our current fleet program with Enterprise and what's available with the HIDO, it was found that Enterprise doesn't allow for a 1-year lease. The minimum is at least 3. CAPS offers a 1-year lease. The reason why this is important is these vehicles are used by our officers who participate in this program, a lot of which is undercover. So the ability to be able to switch the vehicles out more regularly is important. The second piece of it is this is a fully paid for grant, which means they cover 100%, including the fuel for the vehicle, as well as all of the officer pay and benefits. Enterprise came back at a much higher lease rate than CAPS has. CAPS did increase slightly, but it's still lower, so it's a cost savings for this grant.
Councilmember Escobedo.
I'm in agreement with it.
Yeah, one more time.
I don't have a problem. with it.
Okay, Councilmember Martinez.
Have we done this before to run vehicles?
Yes, so we've been part of the CAPS program since 2007 that I am aware of. We never had a formal contract with them until last year. Before that, the DEA had put the city into a contract, and so we're just keeping it going.
I read that the renter will take care of the vehicle if something happens, they have to be fixed.
So our vehicles are insured, so
Okay.
we do cover them, and then normal wear and tear we do. The grant has covered certain maintenance, oil changes if necessary, which we do have 2 during the whole year. And then they also cover like when we have to have a windshield replaced.
Councilmember Stevens.
No additional thoughts?
Okay, Councilmember Stone,
No comment.
Councilmember Nance.
No comment.
All right, let's vote.
Aye.
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 City Secretary, council unanimously approved the 12-month lease with CAPS van and truck rental. Okay, moving on to executive reports. 6 minutes on the clock, please, City Secretary. City Mayor report. I just want to say council is doing a fabulous job. We are covering a lot of things in council meetings, a lot of things. And it's obvious that you guys have been doing the work, reading about it, asking questions, sending geo questions and making questions to make the meetings more efficient. And I greatly appreciate it. And so do the residents, because they do notice how long they are. I hear them say, well, I'm not going to come because y'all are there till 10, 11 o'clock at night. Not quite, but it feels like it. But anyway, so thank you for all that you do. All right, city manager report, 6 minutes on the clock, city secretary.
So the first thing I wanted to bring to the council's attention is the board commissions and committee objectives. So one of the things that we had included within the new ordinance was that to task them, to provide them with some guidance in the direction you wanted assistance and understanding. My big concern is in looking and attending 90% of the board and commission meetings, it's been brought to my attention that there's some areas of concern that I think we need to focus on as a council. One of them, the Music Advisory Committee, does not meet very often. We are the music friendly community. We hold the Texas title for that. We did apply for that. And some of the things that this advisory committee could be doing is looking at our noise ordinance. We've all heard there's issues with it. We need to update it. It was put together as a result of the Texas music friendly community. I think that that needs to be something that is discussed. The other thing that needs to be taken into consideration, and I know Councilor Stevens had been working on it, is the HOT committee working on the conflict of interest. There's been discussion with people applying for grants that actually sit on the board, and some other things that have come up. And I know that they've been working on that, but it's not a formal task. My biggest concern is planning and zoning. We do talk about, you know, the direction of the community, and we talk about the comprehensive plan, but your planning and zoning commission is divided. You have partial people working on ordinances that affect the zoning, and then you've got people focused on a zoning map. So I think it's really important that we really understand the direction as a council you want your advisory boards and commissions to go, because then they go rogue. Not that that's a bad thing, because, you know, we all have our passion projects. My biggest concern with planning and zoning is as you're updating and changing zoning ordinances, that does have a long-term effect, not only on the zoning map that does need to be updated, but also on the comprehensive plan, you know, the direction in which you want the city. For example, you've got several members who are really focused on changing some of the residential zoning to allow for different structures. You know, what they're calling casitas, smaller lots, smaller homes, which is not a problem, but it's also something that as council you should be aware of, especially when you have half the board coming before you wanting to approve a zoning map. The zoning map could then possibly have a different impact when you're looking at changing some of these zones to begin with. So they work hand in hand, and I think it's really important that council does have a workshop, if you want to call it, or something where you kind of say, hey, we want our boards and commissions to start focusing on this to help guide us as we prepare for a comprehensive plan, as we prepare for approving an ordinance, or as we prepare for approving a zoning map. I think it's really important. On the parks, I do commend the Parks Board and the Animal Advisory Board. Both of them have continued to work on their ordinances and have been researching and getting drafts put together to present before council. I know the parks at this last meeting did have some recommendations, and they are going to have an action item to approve a park zone, a park ordinance, as well as, you know, they're eager. That's a great group of younger people that are looking forward to making some changes for the parks. One of the things we've also talked about that is the big beast to tackle is events in our parks and alcohol and things that will need to be considered. Your animal advisory committee just literally went through all of their ordinances, and you guys just approved. They're cleaning them up, making those improvements. So I do commend them. So I think it's really important that we do consider looking at the direction the city council wants to take. These are your advisory boards, and they should be tasked accordingly. The music, the planning and zoning, and the HOT committee. I understand that it's hard to get people on these commissions, but we want to make sure that when we do put them on these commissions, that they understand that they're making an impact in our community, and that, you know, their advice is being listened to. And And they have an opportunity to make these great changes. Any questions?
Zoning map that we're currently using,
23.
2013.
2013. Now, don't we have a zoning map that the COG worked on for us that's complete now?
It is complete to a certain point. If zoning ordinances are presented, it will once again become non-compliant. Not a problem, except for we do have an ordinance process. The zoning map should be approved by ordinance. It should not have been approved by resolution. Unfortunately, 2013, you and I weren't here. That wasn't something we handled. Once the zoning map gets recognized by the planning and zoning and it moves forward for approval, it will be approved by city council as an ordinance. So there is the ordinance process to approve it. But like I mentioned, you also have half of your planning and zoning looking at changing the zoning ordinances. They're not working together, in my opinion. They're working for the greater good. But if you approve the zoning map and in the next meeting you're approving removing C1As, or you're going to change your R4s, and you have these updates that are going to be made, I really think it's kind of okay. Are we going to change the ordinances we just talked about in ones, and then approve the zoning map? Or you can approve the zoning map and we will continue to have some of the issues we currently have.
Okay, but we're using one that's really outdated, a 2013. We have one that's more outdated, more updated, but the zoning map seems like it could change frequently depending on what council does as far as zoning and rezoning over the next several years. But wouldn't it make more sense to pull that one forward instead of looking at one from 2013, which is what, 11 years old?
That is council's decision. That really isn't our decision. If council wants to task the planning and zoning with finalizing it and getting everyone on agreement with what is being presented, then that should be something that council tasks.
Okay.
And I say we can approve it and then they can work on ordinances, but you have them not competing. You have them kind of not working together. You have a group that wants to change the ordinances, and then you have a group, or the zoning ordinances, then you have a group who's focused on the map.
So if we go back and we task them with, this is what we want you to do, everybody needs to work united, then that will help solve that division.
It will definitely help solve that division, and it will also put, all heads in one.
Right.
And making sure, I know that they've reviewed it, they've looked at it. There are pros and cons to it. I just think it's really important that you make sure your advisory boards are all working in the same direction.
Okay. So when are we set to task? When's
So,
on the agenda?
It should have been done already, but we can put it on for the next agenda.
Okay.
We do
Please.
set it by resolution, and outlines everything, that we might put to task. So if you have ideas for the boards you're representing, if you can send them to us, of course, tomorrow is the deadline.
And they're gonna have one more.
Yeah, maybe we
So then
get
we
it
can
on
put-
the following agenda,
first-
city secretary,
The first meeting in November.
first meeting in November. Councilmember Stevens?
So one of the things I like about what we're trying to do is integrate stuff to get subjectivity out. And like we did, was it 2 years ago, strategic planning, we kind of made a list. And as I recall, like a year ago, we had a list of 30 items we said we're gonna go work on. We've done a good job focusing on the 4 or 5, but the rest of them kind of fell below the list. Is it time for rather than dive into specific zoning or whatever, for us next time to say, here's the list of the 24 that are left, whatever it is, and us say, which of these would we like our boards and commissions to go work to come back with recommendations and give them some action? Because my sense is that's the challenge we're facing.
That would be helpful.
Because I think it'll help all of us, and it's, we don't want to add more workshops, but it really is that what I enjoy about this, and despite the fact Darren and I go back and forth on Avenue B, these are the right discussions to have.
Yeah.
And the more we do those amongst us in a workshop, the better off we're going to get down the path we need to go. Zoning map is one of them. We're now working comprehensive plan. We talked about streets today. We're going to talk about water coming up. We're going to talk about sewers. These are the sorts of things. None of us want to have longer meetings, but my view is when we have these sessions, we move the ball forward as opposed to it stagnates, and we are making things move. So that'd be my put. We had us Megan to say, what's the list of things we had? And we ought to come into our next meeting if we're going to look at it and say, let's prioritize, let's all take the action to prioritize what we think are the top next 5. And
And
that would
send
be
them to our
discussion, have and
liaison
say, organizations or commissions go work them.
Okay,
That's my point.
so I guess city manager or city secretary, whoever it might be, can you send that out to us, that list again, so
I
that
have
we
it.
can, we can reprioritize and send it back to you that way?
I have to send the list of the list of items from the original January conversation and to include the additional items that have been discussed recently.
Okay, any other comments or questions for city manager for her report?
One quick, go ahead.
Megan, you talked about having a workshop with planning and zoning.
I just
Or-
threw that idea out there.
I mean, I do think it's
I think if
it's a
you task
good
them,
idea.
then they'll have
I
an
don't know.
idea of what to work on.
Because
Then
they're
we
so
won't need the
divided.
workshop.
Okay.
Quickly, want to just note, apologize, Gio, on the music committee. Hoping we can do another one very soon. Idea that I'd love to incorporate that as a music and art committee, maybe going into forward, and just wanted to bring that up in the public forum here. That's all I got.
All right.
I have I like the idea to have a workshop with planning and zoning. I like that, but I like also to start using the new map because changes are going to be always. People's been asking to change for R4 to C1 or whatever. So, but this is what is close to reality, what we have right now. And then it can be those little changes in the future, but at least we have an idea what is more real right now in the map that 11 years ago or 13 years ago map. So I think we can start using the new map and in the future made any small changes that it will need to be changes that are going to be appear. So life is changing all the time. So nothing is forever. So I like those 2 ideas, the workshop and start using the new map.
I have a note here to add the map as an action item to the next P and Z meeting. So that they can make a recommendation.
So how soon you think that it will be the workshop with the planning and zoning?
So the next workshop is scheduled for the last Monday in October. I don't have a calendar.
Monday?
October 28th is the next planning and zoning. And then it becomes an action item. We still have, because we will approve it by ordinance, it still has to have the 2 weeks before it can, so it can be reviewed by council as well as the legal team. And then it will go on the following city council agenda.
All right, good. Thank you, city manager. That was it
for that item.
Okay.
I'm past 6 minutes. I'm actually past 10 probably.
Give us a quick clip notes.
Clip notes. On October 15th, we have our water workshop. Our engineers are going to prepare and have submitted a presentation to provide to council and we'll present at the meeting. Our lead and copper is due October 16th. We have an internal deadline of October 7th. We are currently at 26% completed, where we have the information for both the city and the residential side. The remaining portions are either divided. We have city information only, or we have customer information only. We have a pre-construction meeting on October 16th for the wastewater to sign the contracts and start moving forward with the repairs to the wastewater treatment system. The streets did their update today. I will work back with Eddie and his team on the list. As of last week, we had submitted the final information to Evergreen and regarding the employees' hire dates, their promotion dates, their salaries, their differential pay, their certification pay. They are currently working on updating that information. I do not have draft numbers. When draft numbers will become available, it will be held during executive session because it is not a final approved documentation that deals with employees' pay, and we are allowed by state law to have it under executive. They are also currently working on our job descriptions to update those, not only to meet everything that we're required by law to have within a job description, but to also update the titles. They have started working on a pay classification and pay scale. So positions will be classified like 101, 102, which will then provide a pay range and a pay scale for that as well. I have not spoken to them this week. It is only Tuesday. And that is it.
Okay, so the employee compensation study, when we get numbers, that will come to council all at once in an executive session.
Yes.
Okay. All right, anything else? Okay, thank you, city manager for your executive report.
Quick comment there, but it's fine. If we need to move on, I can talk to it after.
Go
That's
ahead.
fine. I just wanted to ask if we might be able to get that employee compensation study sent to the council as soon as possible. And I mean, like in the next couple weeks.
Because it's in draft form and it's confidential and until it's approved, it would need to be during an executive meeting.
Okay.
I wouldn't want the information to unfortunately get made public because our employees aren't aware and that would not look good.
That wouldn't look good. I'll try to put it on an executive perhaps. Thank you.
Okay, great, thank you, thank you. All right, council member comments, Councilmember Stevens.
I'm out of airspeed and altitude. I'm done. Thank you.
That means you've crashed.
No, I landed.
Okay, okay, good.
Not
All right,
okay.
Councilmember Escobedo.
I just wanted to thank the people from Ward 4 that came today and spoke. That is very important.
It is. Councilmember Nance.
No comments.
Councilmember Martinez.
I want to thank you everybody for staying this long and this meeting, listen all discussions. Thank you for coming. I hope this is not the only time that you come.
Councilmember Stone.
Really quickly running through a list of like what I'm planning to bring up in no particular order. Obviously employee compensation, casitas, and also some land that we all know about and trying to talk about if we should increase the amount of houses in the community. Temporary members for commissions. Y'all might remember we denied someone because they are not on the voting rolls here. Maybe an idea of that. And also the state of Alpine medical care. So that's all I got. Thank you.
Okay, great, thank you. And then I want to thank everybody for being here tonight. Thank you so much. Really, come more often. Okay, and thank you.
We follow you on Facebook.
Oh, thank you, thank you.
Your work.
Thank you. All right, so this brings us to item number 13, executive session pursuant to chapter 551 of the Texas Government Code. The city council reserves the right to convene into executive session from time to time as deemed necessary during this meeting for any posted agenda item or to receive advice from the attorney as permitted by law. Tonight, the city council will recess into executive session pursuant to section 551.071 of the Texas Government Code. Consultation with the attorney, discuss the possible sale and or acquisition of property for long-term overall city goals and planning, including city-owned structures. May I get a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second. Any discussion? Let's vote to go into executive.
Aye.
Hi.
City Secretary, all members voted unanimously to go into executive session at 8:14 p.m. And with that, we're going to take a break. Okay, may I have a motion to reconvene into open session? I need a second. Any discussion? Let's vote. Aye. Aye. City Secretary, Council voted unanimously to reconvene into open session at 8:37 PM. Okay, that moves us to item number 14, action after executive session. May I
Mayor, move, we take no action from executive session.
may I have a second?
A second.
Any discussion? Let's vote for no action. Aye.
Aye.
City Secretary, Council unanimously voted for no action after executive session. And with that, we are adjourned 8:37 PM.
Who's the closest?
What time did you say?
45. I'm on the geo.
8:45.
I said 8:25.
8:25.